God damn it.
Okay, we're going live. Okay, we
Harvard
are
scored the pen. That's a shame.
we are apparently live,
Uh, ah!
allegedly.
Did you
Oh
turn
my
off? Did you
fucking
make
god.
it public?
Yeah, I made it public, but I already mucked it up.
Oh, what?
Okay. No, for some reason OBS picked up Discord 2 instead of Discord 1, so the icons were smaller again. I fixed it.
Okay.
I don't know why it was doing that.
Hey, okay. I opened the stream and I heard Column say ah. So
Ah! That's what I
yeah,
said.
I'm very glad that you
yeah,
managed
Well,
to
not
hear.
really said. I just made a noise.
yes. All right. Let me
I
stream,
love
not stream. Let me
noises.
tweet. I'm not gonna stream now.
Discord 1,
I am on
so
the
the
stream, but I'm not the
icons
one
were
Tweet!
streaming.
I'm gonna tweet!
Why are you
I'm
on a
gonna make a
tweet?
viral tweet.
You know what I could probably do? I could probably open up Watch Together and put some generic Last of Us gameplay in the background so we can keep the attention of those
You
people.
could do that, actually.
I could do that,
Or
yeah.
you don't do that because if people don't have the attention span to listen to people talking without something flashing on screen, maybe they shouldn't
Look, at this
watch.
point, the majority of my audience is likely going to be people who watch TikTok, so they probably will need something in the background just to keep their
Why did my
attention.
cat come with my desk? Get
Oh,
off my
so
desk.
put
Can-
Subway Surfers gameplay. Obviously, that's how you win
Subway
over.
Surfers, true. That is actually a good
And
idea.
Family Guy funnies. Yeah.
Family Guy. Oh, Skye, what the hell?
What you don't you don't know the
No, I
you're
do
not
know.
online enough.
No, I do know exactly what you're talking about. The problem is, it's very cringe.
It is cringe. That's the point. That's the joke I'm making. You would never do that. It is
Yeah, but
simply cringe.
we're talking about a very serious show today, and very serious media.
Well, yeah, Family Guy is very serious.
No, it's not.
There's an episode where Brian dies, Shandy.
And there's an episode where Brian comes
And
back to
yeah.
life. Skye,
Yeah,
Yeah.
shut up.
and it was very emotional. Stewie was
Sure.
So
very distraught about
emotional
Brian's
that
death.
Stewie's
everyone
also been a
hated it.
toddler for like the last 20 years, so I don't care. His opinion means
Well,
nothing.
you've been a
Okay,
toddler
what
for the
about-
past 20 years as well, so.
No, that's incorrect. I've been one for the last 23. Thank you very much.
Oh, so how's that a defense? Exactly, you lose.
I'm
I
just
win.
pointing out that you're wrong about something, at least. Anyways, hi guys,
I'm
welcome
never wrong.
to episode 7
Yeah,
of
hey,
the
chat.
Nuthouse.
Hello.
We've been missing for a while, mostly because Editron's British and he had to ruin everything by being from a country that's very inconvenient for me.
Yeah, it
So
was
you'll
my fault.
Yeah.
I agree that being British fucks up a lot. I can attest to that by having 3 British co-hosts and having to time shit when we stream it can
Well,
be
to be fair,
very
that
annoying.
just seems like they have to attend, like amend for your time zone, really.
I
when
feel
it's
like
free
at
No,
that
I
time.
point
have
it's
to do for
resource
their
farming.
time zone. We'd start much earlier, according to me, but I have to start later because of those people.
Actually, you know what? As long as I can take a dig at the British, I'm going to have to agree with Skye. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Yeah, let's go.
And today we will be discussing, as you could probably tell from the title that took me far too long to make because YouTube hates me unless I'm under pressure. We're going to be looking at or talking about HBO's new Last of Us TV show, which released its final episode last week, Sunday. And me and
Yeah.
Skye managed to finish watching that last night, and we thought it was pretty good. Yes, Editron, is that the general consensus you arrived to as well, or do you have a different opinion that will get you kicked off?
What I think, I wasn't expecting it, but I really liked it. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say great, but
No.
I'm happy that we have a good season of a pretty fairly well done adaptation of The Last of Us. I'm very, very satisfied.
Oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
adaptation's probably something I want to talk about at some point, but yeah, I actually ended up liking the show from the get-go. I thought episode 1 was pretty neat. I liked it a lot more than someone else in this call. So I was kind of, with the show from the start. Episode 2 kind of let me down a little bit, because that episode was kind of cringe, and it ended very weirdly, so that was nice. But besides that,
Yeah,
there were a
that
handful of
too.
moments in the season rather than episodes that I thought were bad. Um, except for episode,
Mhm.
was it 8? I don't like episode 8. Episode eight's very hit or miss for me. But how did you guys want
Oh,
to do this? Did you guys want to
really?
like talk about these episodes, episode after episode, or you just want to like jump around? I don't know. How do we
I
want to
mean,
do
Uh,
this?
it's your stream.
it's
You're
up
the
to
one
this.
who should.
No, yeah, sure, it's up to you. I'm happy to discuss
Yeah,
whatever
don't
and
fucking.
and
Yeah,
tell you how wrong you are.
Oh,
yeah.
right, fair enough. Okay, so I guess we could start with our favorite episodes and why, starting from left to right. So, Eddie, what would your favorite episode of the season be?
Oh, that is a toss up. Well, I guess I don't know who to pick for favorite, but my absolute favorite episodes, there's three of them. My favorite episodes were episode 3,
Yes,
episode 5, and episode 8. I really liked all of those episodes
I
quite a
really.
lot.
based for two of
I
those. I'm gonna need some convincing for
I
episode
think
8.
episode 8 might be my favorite, maybe
You're
that or
doing that on
3.
purpose.
Yeah,
But
I also put. When I
no,
was talking to Shandy last night, I put 8 as one of my favorites, and he was just like, "What? I hated that one." It's
that's
strange.
I'll
quite surprising.
Okay, I suppose I
That's
could
quite
explain
surprising to me.
why I don't like episode 8, and it's mostly due to a few things. First thing is adaptation. I think David is better done in the game than is done in the show. And the reason why I
Mhm.
think he's done better in the game is because in the game he's very straightforward. He's a leader of a group of bandit cannibals who are just trying to survive the winter. They attack Joel and Ellie because they see fresh food or fresh clothes, because or whatever. Joel's got guns, he's got bandages, he's got homemade Molotovs, whatever. They see him, then they see a candy store, so they wanna go in. And Ellie, I mean, David made it very clear what he wanted to do with Ellie, so I'm assuming a few other people wanted to do the same thing. Very straightforward bad guy. Very entertaining because of Nolan North's amazing performance. I think he did a really great job, and wasn't really much to go on about him. You could add a few layers onto his character by saying, oh, this could be like a version of Joel if he went down a bad path, and it's Joel who picks Ellie out of that bad path because he recognizes that it's not a good thing for her to do, so he's the one who stops her with the knife. Um, Basic stuff, but delivered really, really well. In the show, however, they add more layers onto him, and I did initially like them, but then it kind of went away, and I'll explain what I mean. So instead of him being a leader of a group of bandits, a group of cannibals, he is a religious leader in the show. He provides religious guidance for people. He tries to give them hope and inspire them in the show through his Bible verses, especially since he's now discussing the death of one of his citizens, and the father of a little girl who's like crying and wants to bury him. So the episode starts off really, really strong. I really like the way that the scene is framed. It's very somber. It gives you a different perspective of what's going on in this scene versus Ellie looking after Joel in the last episode, which I really liked. I think episode 7 is pretty good, except for a few problems. But then when it starts getting weird for me is when they start introducing the father character that Joel killed in the last episode. Because when I watched episode 6 and I just thought these are bandits attacking them for stuff, I thought, okay, this is fine. This is what happens in the game. It's what happens in the show anyway, so it's all good. But now he's just a standard survivor. He's not necessarily a bad guy. He's also a dad. So to take that character and have him just rush what he would assume is a father and a daughter, a young daughter about the same age as his, made me go, that's a bit off. I don't know if he would be that willing just to rush them. Maybe if they played up the
I definitely
desperation
think they would.
angle
They
more.
make a very clear point about them being like starving, so much so that Troy Baker's character was kind of like, maybe we should just let Ellie die. Maybe that's what God wants, because if you get her, it's just another mouth to feed. Like I feel like that community is very much willing to do something like that, simply to get
So the thing is,
to get by. And it's also like when he dies and he's talking like, "Oh, we're gonna get Joel, we're gonna kill him, we're gonna get justice." And people are like, "No, you should kill him," whatever. Like those people don't seem to be like the most like morally outstanding people. They seem to
well,
have a bit of a bloodthirst.
the thing is, they like that after he dies, but we don't know what they're like beforehand.
Well, yeah,
After
but if
after
they're
he
like
no no
if
no
they're
no no
like
no hold on,
asking
hold on.
to kill someone, I think they're very much okay with doing shit like that just to get food, just to get by.
The thing is, you don't know that because we don't know what the community behaves like before that scene happens. After the dad dies, there is an element of justification for why they would do that because a lot of them are fueled by anger, and that anger is then multiplied by their starvation. They're incredibly hungry, and when you get hungry, when you get tired, when you get thirsty, all of these things combine to like horribly affect your mood, which then affects the way you think later on. So after he dies, I think their desire to want to kill him makes sense. It's the before part that I would need a little bit more convincing with because I don't think they would outright start attacking them unless they were provoked. I feel like the way that David's trying to play this up, they would more or less try and see if they can get something from them first, unless the dad is a cannibal, and we don't know that if that's confirmed because the show
Yeah, he said
is
some people know, but
yeah.
not
David
everyone.
says a few people know, and we know at least two of them know, or rather three. It's David himself, it's the character played by Troy Baker, and then it's the butcher who like gives them the quote unquote venison. So those three people we know are confirmed cannibals, and
It wouldn't
maybe
surprise me at all if the people who tend to go out on hunts are the ones in the know. That kind of would
Mhm.
make sense to me.
It would make sense, yeah.
I don't think that's an impossible inference to make.
it's not. But
I also don't think it's like necessary. I feel like you're asking for some
Yeah.
context that just isn't needed for the episode. Like for the episode to do. Just saying like this is how they act.
Because one of my favorite parts of that episode, other than the stuff that is done also in the game, I actually did really like in the episode how they kind of made this city a bit more, of this group, I guess I should say, a bit more of like there being some sort of story there. Because in the game, it's very much just the only real character from that section in the game is David,
yeah,
and I guess you could say James, but he's there literally for seconds, so I don't really count him. I really liked how they displayed that and attached that with David's character, and I also thought the actor for David was fucking brilliant. I
Yeah.
didn't really
He's an open
appreciate
man.
him on my first watch, but he was so creepy in that scene with Ellie at the start. As the scene went on, it was just the look in his eye was just so fucking unsettling. But that's one of the things I really liked about the episode was that addition of the community and how sort of like disturbing it is. Like the scene where David goes back to the group and they're all having dinner. I just loved how that all sounded and looked, how it's so eerily uncomfortable. Yet David is so relaxed and chilled with his, extra portion meals, which I thought was a great detail. And how, I just liked all of that in terms of making that a bit more fleshed out rather than it was in the game, which I don't have a problem with, but I actually really appreciated this added layer to David of his need to be like a father figure
to an entire community.
Yeah, and that's what then delves into his story with Ellie, where because Ellie's clearly very different to, I guess, other young girls he's found in the last 20 years.
Yeah, he even says she's like him, which is kind of like she doesn't need anyone else.
Exactly. I really like that.
He says like
wanted
you'd be a leader, right, or something. So
yeah, you're my equal. That want for an equal, like, and then obviously with the implications of that and how well performed both Bella Ramsey and David were. I really, really, really thought that was really well done. It's a big part of why I really like the episode a lot. Is everything to do with David and Ellie and Joel, of course.
So Ed, how many rewatches have you done? Have you just done the one watch through and then a rewatch?
I've watched the episode twice plus EFAP coverage. So like kind of 3 times, but not really. But with extra discussions, I guess you could say.
I've only managed to watch that that episode once, so maybe if I went and rewatched it
Mhm.
again, I would pick up a few things.
I would
that I
suggest
noticed.
doing another rewatch. I would, because I really think a lot of the added stuff, as well as all the stuff they adapted from the game, was really well done. Like another one, I really liked what they did with James Troy Baker's character. I thought Troy Baker was fantastic in his a small role, but a really well done one. You get a lot of character from his just constant expressions of how he fucking hates everything about this. Clearly, it's so well done. Just that little bit extra that they've added from that is one of the things that I really appreciate about the episode, as well as all the other stuff that I really adore. That's why it's one of my favorite episodes for sure. I think it's a really, really strong episode.
Yeah, I think it's my second favorite.
Okay, well, in that case, I think I'll just abscond from talking about it negatively anymore until I rewatch it, because I might just get a few things wrong.
Mhm.
But it's mostly
That's
just
fine.
like initial feelings that I had watching the episode and things that I
No,
felt
yeah,
were a
because
bit weird.
I remember when I first watched it, I was like, I liked it a lot, but there was a lot of stuff that when I rewatched it and then listened to further discussion on it, there was a lot more to appreciate on delving into it deeper. I think either that or episode 5 is probably, I think, the strongest episodes, and 3 is pretty strong, but that's more because of how well the characters are done. Because it's very much more a character based story, while episodes 5 and 8 are very action packed, traumatic sort of stories with a lot of great character work too. So those are my 3 favorite episodes. The other episodes, other than episodes 1, 2, and 7, I thought are all solid. Those are the 3 episodes where I was like, I mean, there's good stuff here. I just don't think it really did it as well as it really could have. Especially episode 7. I feel like that one went a bit too long for me, just on initial watch. I think you can cut that down and really tying it up and extend more time to the David episode, because I think you can for sure. That's just how I feel on my first watch of the season. Really, I don't know how you two feel about that.
Well, I disagree with basically all your assessments. I think 5 is probably the worst episode of the season. Everything that happens with the fucking ground starts to fall down and a bunch of I was gonna say walkers because The Walking Dead, a bunch of infected.
Well, that's because
show up and they just stay there and don't run.
The van that crashed into, not the van, sorry, it was
no, I know why it happens. I'm just saying it's silly that it
house.
happens. Nobody runs away. They're just standing there watching, and then when they could have had time not only to get into their cars and start driving away, but they just stand there and watch. And what's his name? Henry doesn't take that moment to run away when Kathleen is looking back, and then there's the moment where
I feel like it
there's a
happens all
weird,
pretty fast, to be honest.
it does not.
And
it takes a while because I was getting annoyed how long it takes for them to
considering
run.
how quick the infected run, I don't think, even if most of them started to make runs for it gets crowded very fast.
It took 20, 30 seconds for the infected even to start appearing after the ground started to open up. And they just didn't run. That was really annoying, especially because Henry would be like, "Oh, that's a great opportunity because Kathleen is distracted, so run away." And the same thing happened again later when the fucking other there was one of the infected that attacked Kathleen and killed her. And I was just like, "Dude, run! Why do you have to wait for Joe to show up to tell you to run?" There's so many moments like that where I'm just like, "Dude, come on! You gotta run for your life. You need to protect your brother at this point."
I would
I really like the character stuff, but that last bit really did irk me.
I'm just going to address something here in chat from aspiring writer asking why would he risk running and getting shot by one of Kathy's men. Skye, since you're on the topic, why don't you take that one?
What they're all focusing on the infected already, and obviously if they're all distracted, that's the perfect moment to run. He's looking for an opportunity to tell Sam and Ellie to run. But they just stand there.
I would,
and not only.
yeah,
Sorry.
I wanted to add in here. There's also a better reason for him to start running, and it has nothing to do with the people aiming guns at him. It has to do with the infected itself. There's a horde of them coming out, and he doesn't know when it's going to stop. The infected have proven to be significantly more dangerous than people with guns throughout this entire show. So him trying to get Sam and Ellie out of there as quickly as possible would be the priority there. So them sticking around for as long
Yeah,
as they
that
do
that,
is
that would be my other
Well, I'm looking at
my
the
other
episode
argument,
now, and
especially
from the
because
wide
like
shot, not all of them are
mm,
looking away. I would, from the looks of it anyway. I'm looking at the wide shot, not all of them are looking at the hole in that
Thing
yeah, I
is-
still
direction.
think he
It's
should
just so
start
when
running. I don't
the
like,
thing.
especially because Kathleen is the one who would want to kill Henry. She wouldn't let anyone else do it. It
I
would have
also
to be her.
seem I might be reading. It might be the wrong implication, but the look I get from Henry is that he's confused. Well, not confused. He just doesn't know what's happening, other than obviously the car is sinking into the ground.
Yeah, if
So
he doesn't
I
know what's
don't know.
happening
I
and
don't know
they're
if it's
distracted,
common.
just run away,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. I
Oh
think
no!
it's
If
really weird. And then
if you would be running before the car like sinks into the house, then that would be a stupid thing to do because Kathleen Zimmerman would definitely shoot him. But when the infected start
no.
coming out, that's when he would start running.
Yeah. Well, I think he would. I think he would start running when Kathleen turns away, because there's the moment she's pointing the gun at him, and then she turns back.
Yeah,
when
but
it starts
like I said,
sinking, and I'm
I
just like,
might be
run.
wrong from the wide shot of when you see Joel looking through the window. Not every single one is looking away.
The thing is, what Henry's doing there is he's sacrificing himself to make sure that Sam and Ellie can get away. So
Exactly.
he
Yeah.
isn't trying to run away. He's trying to create a diversion.
Oh no,
so
yeah.
that they can get
Then
away.
then fucking tell Sam and Ellie to run away. I think
Yeah.
like either way. But I
then
think he
but
would
Ellie
turn
isn't
he would turn
going.
around
Ellie
and be
was
like,
never
run,
gonna
and they turn
start running.
What?
Yeah, but
She
Ellie was
was.
never gonna start running.
She was holding Sam's hand, and Sam tried to get up, and she was like, "No, no,
Well,
no."
not to go out in the
Get ready
open.
to run.
That's the point. Not to go
Well,
and
no,
get
they
shot.
wouldn't go out in the they wouldn't go out in the open. They would run when they're distracted. That's a perfect distraction to be like, "Hey, run!" And they would go and hide somewhere else. I also find it weird that Joel doesn't shoot Kathleen in that moment, because there's a huge pause there, and if he does, that's also a big distraction that can help.
Well, if
Ellie
he
and
shoots,
Sam to run away.
if she shoots,
There's like 20 or
then
30
they're
other
all
people
gonna
with
open
guns.
fire on Henry
Yeah, exactly.
right
That's
then.
a horrible thing for him
They
to
would-
do.
That'd
If
be
they're
really
all-
stupid of Joel to do.
I don't think so. I think if he shoots Kathleen, right after she turned away, they would all turn to Joel, and that would give Henry an opportunity.
I
Because they
wouldn't-
wouldn't understand where
I
the shot
would
came
say,
from. That would
in
give
that
Henry an
moment,
opportunity to run away.
if Joel sees Kathleen about to fire, then I think he would then do it. I think that's the only point where he probably would.
I think he wouldn't have done that at that moment, because then they would definitely like open fire and go after Ellie and Sam when they're distracted because of the big hole. I think that makes way more sense, because most of them aren't even looking at Henry, or they don't even know where Joe is, and they're paying attention to something else.
So Sparring
Also,
Writer points
Joel
out
is-
something interesting in chat. They all want to kill Henry because he's responsible for the death of someone.
Oh yeah, that's
really loved.
also true. There are guns also on Joel because they know they're in the window as well.
Yeah, because he shot
So
at
that's
the
also
truck
that-
beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah,
Joel,
there's a
They're
lot.
always
I would
trained on
honestly
Joel.
say
Why
this
don't
guy.
they
There's a
shoot at him?
lot because he's in cover.
No, he's holding the gun and paying attention to everything that's happening for a lot of the scene.
No, Joel is
they-
when as this conversation is going on, Joel is in cover. The only time he comes out of cover is when the car is sinking down. That's the only time he comes out
and
of
that's
cover.
the moment I'm
throughout the
telling,
entire
and that's the
conversation.
moment I'm telling, saying that he should have shot. When they're not looking at him,
yeah,
they're
he could have,
distracted.
yeah. I mean, he probably. That's probably the only thing I would concede at is he probably should have at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't think 100% he would in that moment. I think that's a possibility. He probably could do that. I feel like there's a lot of variables here where it's not as flawed as I think you initially said it was. I think there's at least a lot of variables there.
Joe not shooting is the least of my worries. Henry not telling Ellie and Sam to run is the one that annoys me. There's they have like 20-30 seconds where they're just Kathleen and most of her men are looking away.
I still don't agree. I feel like
the entire point was for him
No,
to sacrifice himself to distract Kathleen so that the kids could run away.
if he
There's
makes
a
any
moment
like
where
loud
she's
sudden
distracted and most-
movements, then he's probably going to get shot.
Yeah, it'll take time for them to turn away. That's the entire point. Is to give them a little bit more time so they can run away.
I think
And Joe
you're
was at the window.
heavily underestimating how quick people can turn, Skye.
Yes.
Like
What?
the
So Henry's plan was gonna fail
I think
from the
also
start.
this is a
All of them
very
were dead,
high.
man.
It's a high tense situation where
Okay,
things
but
can happen
so
very
what you're
quickly
saying?
and
So what
sudden
you're saying to
movements.
me is that that they were dead. That Henry's plan wouldn't have worked. of him
Henry
distracting
was
He
Kathleen.
probably
in
would
a
have been
ver-
dead.
hold
Yeah,
on,
he
hold on,
was
hold on,
he
hold
was
on.
willing to die.
Yes.
No,
So
no, I'm not saying him. I'm saying Sam and Ellie. They were dead. His plan wouldn't have worked if the infected hadn't attacked Kathleen and her men. Because if the point was, I'm gonna sacrifice myself so that I can distract Kathleen so they can run. But when Kathleen is distracted, he can tell them to run because if they do run, they're gonna turn around and shoot at them. Then that means that it would have never worked. That his plan was stupid
okay,
from the
wait.
get go.
So Skye, the way I understood what you were trying to say there was, if Henry started running, which is the problem. But if you just told Sam and
No,
Ellie to
I'm
run,
telling.
okay,
Yeah.
right. No, in that
That's
case,
what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think Henry probably would have run at some of the people that were actually looking at him to distract them more. And he says to Ellie and Sam, "Run," so that if they shoot at anyone, he shoots at him, Henry. Um, but Ellie and Sam have a window to run away
So
and
I don't
hide
think he
somewhere
would have
else.
outright like yelled at them to run. I think he would have like implied that they run a little bit more, like maybe
Or,
turning to whisper to them or something while Kathleen's distracted.
or no, yeah, I agree. I don't think he would have just been like run or something, like yelling at them. But he would have told them to go.
Okay, right. No, so
He
I'm on the
just doesn't do
same
anything.
page as you right now. So yeah, I think
Alright.
Henry would have stayed, maybe even sacrificed himself to make sure that Sam and Ellie got away. But the way
Yeah,
I
that's what
understood
I'm
what you
saying.
were
He would
trying to
probably
say
be
early
like
on.
run, and then he like maybe rushes at one of the people pointing a gun at him. He tries to get the gun, maybe gets shot or something, just so he can distract them more, and so they don't pay attention to the kids running, because that's his priority at that moment is to save his brother and Ellie,
Okay. So
especially his brother.
what I wanna ask you is, besides the last 10 to 15 minutes of episode 5, is there any other reasoning for why you think that it's the worst of the show? Because I actually think episode 5 is one of the stronger episodes, ignoring the last 15 minutes.
No, it's
Or
basically those last 15 minutes. I don't like that entire like because I have more issues than what I said. Like when like the infected they're acting weirdly, like weirdly intelligently. Like there's a moment where one of them grabs um one of them grabs I think it's Henry's leg, and it's like pulling him, and I was just like, that seems kind of strange. Like I don't think an infected would have that kind of like knowledge to do that. Like it's pulling him, but not trying to bite him exactly. It's just like trying to get him towards it. Which is just like, I don't think an infected has ever been shown to do that. Or there was the acrobatic infected that got into the car. That was also very strange to me. Especially because Ellie just locks it in. I don't understand what the point was of making that like such weird infected show up. I guess it's just scary, but I
the
don't
big
understand how an
bloater?
infected would have been able to do that. No, not the bloater. There was like a kind of, I don't know if it was a runner or a clicker, but it was one infected got into the into a car with Ellie, and he started doing like all these acrobatics to like
Oh,
get
the
into the
little.
window and jump through. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? That's
I did think that was a bit. I think that was a bit silly. I do think that was a bit
yeah,
silly.
I didn't like that. And then after she gets out of the car, there's an infected right next to her that's attacking one of the people, and then he just kind of ignores her, and she kind of ignores it too. I think she would have been like kind of, I don't know if it's just like the direction was a bit silly, but I feel like Ellie should have been like more frightened by it and like try to get away from it, like jumping in back or
One of
something.
the issues I do have with this sequence is I think Joel hits a lot of shots a bit too much. He becomes quite an ace shot in that entire scene. I don't think he misses like that often. It's one thing I do have an issue with that
I
scene.
think it's fine because firstly because there's so
I think
many
it's-
that I think
yeah.
he's just bound to hit them. But it's also
But I mean, like all
it's
the
kind of thing I'm
important
willing
shots he
to,
needs to make,
Oh,
he
no,
does
yeah.
hit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but I think it's the kind of thing where I'm just like I'm okay with like suspending my disbelief that he'd do it. I think it's like if you take an issue with it, I agree that it is a bit silly, but I don't mind it. I did like the moment where he took so long to hit the driver though. I thought that was neat because obviously it would be very hard. And it adds a bit of tension as well that he hits it at the last second because, well, it's a TV show. But that was a cool moment. I like that. I also was wondering how much ammo he had because he just kept shooting and the ammo just didn't run out.
Because I wouldn't. Well, because that was like a post of the guy he killed. I'd imagine there's a decent amount.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
ammo
and
there.
they just took
I think that's
out
fine.
Fedra in that
Fedra,
area,
yeah.
so they probably could have stolen ammo from them. I just thought it was
Exactly.
a
That's
bit
probably
funny
why
because
he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it just never runs out. It's the kind of thing that I always find funny in video games. But I also found it weird because you know how the sniper, he was clearly seeing Joe running and he was trying to shoot at him, and he obviously saw where Joe was going. He was going around. So why did he like aim
So this
his
actually
gun
a
at the
piece
door?
of there's an explanation in the show, and I think Aspiring Writer just pointed it out. It's due to the
Mm.
lack of light. Joel himself comments on how dark it is, making it harder for him
Yeah, it's
and the other
very
sniper
dark.
to lie to aim. But
No,
once the
yeah.
fire gets created, then it makes it easier for him to hit his shots because he can see.
Oh, okay. For Joe to hit the shots. Okay, I was talking about something else. I thought you were addressing what I was saying. But yeah, that's a good point. Once there's light, it makes more sense for Joe to be able to hit it better. But what I'm saying is, you know how the sniper is like hitting, firing at Joe, and he's seeing like what direction he's going. Like he almost hits him a few times. As Joe's going around to get him. He knows the direction Joe's going. It's obvious that he's going around to take out the sniper, and I don't understand why he's not like looking at the door when Joe gets there. Like he's still looking out the window. I thought that was a bit silly because I thought he would be like, "Oh, he's coming here. I'm gonna aim my gun at the door so that when he comes in, I shoot him."
Well, that's what they do in the. That's why I actually do agree with that, because in the game, the guy is by the door and takes him by surprise. He just loses the fight. So that is actually something I do agree with. I
Yeah,
think the
and
guy just
I do
sitting
like
there
that.
at the
Yeah.
window was. While I do like the moment of like him, like
Him
Joel just telling
slowly
him
turning.
to stand
Yeah,
down,
don't do it.
wait
Yeah,
there, wait for an
for it
hour,
to
you'll be
not.
fine.
Yeah.
Just let us go, and he doesn't and kills him.
Yeah, I
I
really
do
like
like that, but I do
that level of
agree they should
interaction,
be by
but
the door.
yeah,
It's
it's
actually
just
funny that you guys are
really
talking
just
about the game
crazy.
because I've got gameplay playing in the background, so we'll probably see an example of what you guys are talking about
Oh,
now.
that's cool.
Yeah.
But
Oh, but
So
you're using the
so anyway,
but you're
I
using the remake version. There.
sorry, it's the only one that I had that had 10 hours of gameplay. The other ones were like an hour, an hour, and I was like, I don't care enough to go back and check. So I just grabbed this
Alright,
one. So yeah, this is exactly what they're talking about. The sniper knew Joel was coming up. He is now trying to stab him with
Also,
the knife.
you
Joel
don't have to
grabs
have
him.
the watermark over gameplay because you're not going to get
yeah,
copyright for it.
gameplay can get copyrighted. Yeah,
You sure?
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I streamed the game myself.
Yeah, no, gameplay can't get copyrighted.
All right. I'll
I mean,
just
it
keep it
can, but
updated.
they
Yes,
don't because it makes them money. So no gameplay is ever
Yeah.
Look,
copyrighted on
Skye,
But yeah,
I got
that's I
copyright
do.
struck for Last of Us content through music.
Yeah,
Like,
but you got music. Music
yeah, I
is one
know.
thing.
Yeah, that's
I'm a little
music.
bit sketchy about this stuff at the moment because of the
No,
TV.
don't worry. You can't get copyrighted. Just you can take off the cover. Trust me. Yeah, it's
Oh
fine.
well,
It's fine.
cover is now currently off. But
All right.
the thing is, despite the logistic issues in the last episode, I actually think episode 5 is one of the stronger episodes because of the character writing stuff. When it
Oh no, I
comes
I
to
think
loved
the, I
the
think
character
I
writing.
think the character writing is fantastic.
The scenes with Sam and Ellie are some of my favorite in the entire show.
I love
Them reading the
honestly,
comic
I
book
actually
is just
really
great.
liked what they did with Henry and Sam. I really like what they did with them. The aspect of
Me too.
Sam being deaf, and the idea of like Henry kind of like his version of like information feeding through Sam is a really nice detail I like.
not just
It's
that, but
really, it says a lot about Henry and
there's
how he
also the
deals
thing
with
where
Sam.
Henry
Oh, yeah.
incorporates Sam into the conversation. Like he already knows what the answer is in terms of like how they're going to get out of the city, which is the tunnels. But he gets Sam to
Mhm.
say it himself because he wants Sam to be a part of the conversation, which I
Mhm.
really like.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
quite neat.
I think it's really interesting, and it's the kind of relationship that I really like because it wouldn't work if they weren't siblings. If they were like father and son, I think it would obviously be much harder for like the parent to be able to trust their kid like that. Simply because they would think a bit that they're immature and that they need to protect them because they're siblings. I think there's like a different type of bond that I really appreciate, which is that what you're saying of him being more like letting Sam take part in conversations and actually be like involved with stuff. Like he's actually part of the solution at points, and it's kind of like, hey, he trusts him that much because they're siblings, and I think that's a neat
Yeah.
idea, which is also
It's
obviously present in the game, but it's also in the show, and I like it.
it's quite cool. I also like the incorporation of Henry like sacrificing the resistance group's leader to Fedra so that he can get Sam the medicine he needs, and then
I thought that was great.
it gives him like an understandable reason for ratting out the group, and it also
Yeah,
gives what's Heather is her name? Is it Heather?
Kathleen.
Kathleen. Oh, fuck, I can't.
Kathleen.
You should know by now. Names and me don't go well together. Kathleen. It
Yeah.
gives Kathleen a justifiable reason for being mad and wanting to kill Sam and
Yeah, I
Henry.
liked because I was kind of worried that she was being
Uh,
a bit too evil,
What's
and
what?
then there's that
Yeah.
scene in her like childhood bedroom with the like one of her soldiers,
The,
and it was like probably her best scene, where she's just like my brother, he was a beautiful person and I'm not. I've done terrible things. So, don't tell me that I should forgive Henry, because I know he would tell me that I should forgive him, but I can't and I won't. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask what you guys' thoughts were on Kathleen, because I actually really
I
liked
think
Kathleen.
she's a very pointless villain.
In what way?
So the build-up that they had with her in episode 4 and then again a little bit in episode 5, I thought that that was going to lead to somewhere a little bit more impactful, but then it just ends up in a standoff with her and Henry and Joel in the window, and then her and her entire force gets killed by infected, and it kind of makes the build-up scenes that they had beforehand a little less impactful in the end, because
Mm.
it doesn't really
I kind
go
of thought that
anywhere.
is where we were always going. I was not surprised at all by what happened at
I
all.
wasn't surprised at all either. I was just disappointed because I actually wanted them to go into a different
Well,
direction, and
because
I wanted
I
the
really
characters to pay
liked the
more.
aspect in her conversation with Henry and how that relates a lot to Joel and his like journey. Like, and that's what I like about the season a lot, is these like sort of characters and stories that are building up like links to Joel's like whole story with Ellie and his sort of going to save her. I've really liked a lot of the season being a lot of links to Joel in that way. Like the line I believe Kathleen has, you think one person is worth everything? Like, I've really enjoyed that aspect of like these
Oh,
sort
in
of
that
mini
case, that
stories
actually
that
makes it
revolve
even
around.
funnier because if this is a direct, well, if you're implying the direct connection to the Fireflies, then yeah, it makes Kathleen and her entire group dying especially funny to me because they got nuked anyways for trying to kill the one person the other guy was saving. That's funny. Uh, spoiler alert, I think Joel's completely in the right at the end of episode 9. This shouldn't be like a controversial thing, but I also
The
kind
only
of.
I've said this since like day one. The only thing I would say Joel does like wrong is lie to Ellie, and that's it. But even then, that's totally within character, and I've
Yeah,
always held that position,
I think
and
you
the show
probably
hasn't changed that.
I think you could probably blame The Last of Us 2 for how long you get the lie up, because if Last of Us 1 was
Hmm.
just the end of the series, then you
Well,
can
I think
headcanon
a
it.
fair interpretation is either Ellie does believe him, but is like not totally convinced, or she knows he's straight up lying but accepts it. I think, but the way The Last of Us 2 goes about it, I think it was just the poorest way to go about it. But that's a story. That's a story for another day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm just
don't
trying
I
to
don't
pull
think
up
I
the.
think saying he's completely in the right is a bit much, but I agree he's oh, the thing is they changed something in the show that
I would say
didn't
that
like,
what
which is
happens in the finale, I get an end of the story. It's dark and it is brutal, but it's understandable completely.
yeah, I think you can understand why he's doing it. But the thing is, there was one thing that the game did that I thought made it like clearly more justifiable what Joe was doing in the game, which is that they there's a recording of Marlene being like, they're doing tests, but we don't know if they're gonna work. Like basically, they didn't know if what they were doing to Ellie would work.
Yeah,
She said that
and
she probably
that's the
won't.
thing
And in the show, they kind of
from
make it like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
cure. He knows he can make it. I'm like, I
Well,
don't really
they
like that
say
because
that
how
the
would you know?
doctor thinks he can make it. They do say the doctor thinks he can make it.
Yeah, but it's very different when you have like a character being like, no, he can make it, and then earlier in the season, Joe was like, no, you see, if Marlene isn't a fool or something like that. Because if you have that recording, because she was especially very because one thing that I like in the game, if you listen to those recordings of her talking in the hospital, there's a lot of times where she's very doubtful, and I think that's very good because she doesn't want to kill Ellie. She has this sort of relationship with Ellie, and she feels like she's
No, I
indebted to her in a way. And if you
and I will
have
say I
that, I
do
think
completely understand why the Fireflies do what they do. I do completely understand why, they do what they do, but they're all they do is very shitty.
The
Yeah.
thing that I
Anyway,
find really
what
odd
I'm
with
saying is just that because I like that in the game Marlene, like, she has these moments of doubt, being like, I'm not sure if it's gonna work, I'm not sure, but they still do it anyway because it speaks a little to her character, but it makes what Joel does more understandable because it's like they don't even know for sure they're gonna kill her and it could be for nothing. I'd
But
rather
that's the
like
thing,
she
like,
lived for nothing than she died for
yeah,
nothing, which I think is interesting.
that's
Whereas in
sort of
the
like the
TV show, it's not
cons.
exactly that.
Yeah. Well, that's the con of of it being a video game adaptation and doing it in a show format. That there are going to be constraints when you're adapting
Yeah, there
from
were a
a
few things that they
14-hour
changed
video
from.
game.
Yeah.
The thing
Yeah.
I find really interesting about the show is that I feel like they played up Marlene's desperation a little bit more because you have that scene where she's telling Joel, "You and Ellie made it through this entire country where me and like a 5 to 6 man squad, I think she said 10-man squad because 5 of them died, barely struggled, barely managed to get you because
Isn't
they
that line in
struggled
the
the
game
entire
though?
time."
I think I remember that line in the
It
game.
it
Well,
might
yeah,
be...
yeah, it is the fact they
Hold on,
say in
hold
the
on.
game that Marlene, like, okay, you say what to say.
Yeah. So even if they do send in the game, I feel like it's still amplified in the show, and that's due to the amount of people that are currently on the premises. In the game, I think you go through like 15 or 20 people before you actually get to Ellie, but in the show, he goes through like 4 or 5. So there's the two in the hallway that carry him the first time, and then I think he like shoots about 3 or 4 more people until he gets to Ellie, excluding the doctors. So
Oh,
in the show
that's
they
actually
actually
something I didn't like about the show.
in the show they actually do play up the fact that the Fireflies are like really low on men at this point, where in the game it still felt like they at least had a semblance of an
Another like
organization
20
going on.
people.
Yeah, I think if you could very easily justify there being a lot of people there if you just make it so that it's because all their efforts are concentrated in that one place because it's their last hope.
Yeah.
So either way, you could just make that point. I don't think it would have been like super weird to have a lot of people, but I don't like
The
that
thing
there's
is,
so
if
few
they
people.
had
I
more
think just because
people,
I think
Joel would probably have died.
uh I mean maybe not. You could just write the scene in a way that makes sense for him to survive. Anyway, I would have liked to see more people for just because I think the scene kind of happens way too abruptly in the show. Well, first off, I would have done the scene without music. I think the music is very manipulative and being like, "Oh, Joe is evil." Like that was very weird to me. If I think
I
if it
don't
had
have
the
a
scene with
viewpoint.
like the
But that's
muffled
fine.
music, the muffled sounds, but no music, I think that would have been a lot better because it gives the scene a lot more tension and it makes it feel a bit more like he's like fighting um like very hard to keep her alive. Like with the music, it kind of feels like it's just like trying to guide you to how to feel. But I also like I would have preferred if there were more people because I think the scene kind of happens way too fast where he just like turns around and like kills people and then he's like going around and killing a lot of people. Like what I would have done is have more people just to first off show how much of an effort he's putting into saving Ellie. Because if there are more people and it's harder for him to beat them and it takes longer, I think it just makes it more, I guess, meaningful for Joel to just be like, it took me a lot to do this. To be able
See,
to get to this point where I can where I save Ellie. But
see,
I also
that would
think
kind of go against with what the show is trying to imply because, as you said, the music is like making it seem like Joel is the bad guy. So having him go through the Fireflies
Oh,
as
I don't
quickly
agree.
as he does, you can discuss that later. I just want to point out this thing.
Mhm.
Having him go through the Fireflies as quickly as he does, he's very efficient with his rifle. He gets the first two guys killed in like a matter of seconds. He shoots the other guy in like the head the moment he doesn't give him any information. That's a change I like compared to the game because in the game, the guy didn't say anything before Joel killed him, and you could imply that he's just trying to catch his breath.
what? No,
Where in the
he
show,
no
he's like,
the guy no that guy tried to stab Joel. He put
no,
out
no, no. So in
the
the, I'll try and
scalpel.
find it in the actual gameplay here. You'll see what I mean. Um, so the guys who are guiding Joel after he gets out of his hospital area. Yeah, here's the scene over
Right.
here.
Oh, okay,
So
those guys. I thought you were mentioning the Abby's dad,
no, fuck
the
Abby's
doctor.
dad. So one of these guys, he
Well, you
shoots.
saved a zebra.
He said, yeah, right here. The guy doesn't say anything, and then Joel starts shooting him once, twice, and it's like you're very lucky that he actually manages to get a word out because you've kind of just killed him on the spot. Where in the show, the dude's like, "Fuck you, I'm not giving you anything," and then Joel just shoots him in the head after saying, "I haven't got any time for this." So he just goes.
I won't let you take. Well, that's the thing. That's the one thing I do like as a detail is that he will only kill people who are like threats, like immediate threats. He doesn't kill the nurses at all, which I'm very glad they didn't do.
Okay, but Shandy, how is that contradicting what I said? I'm confused.
I didn't say it was contradicting anything you said. I just said that I liked the change, and I was going to mention.
No. But you were saying something that contradicted that because you said him fighting a lot of people very efficiently, changing that would contradict the point the show's trying to make of him being evil is what you said. But I'm confused.
What?
You said that, and I'm trying to understand why. I don't.
Oh, right.
understand what you
Okay,
meant.
no. So that's a different point to what I was trying to say over here. So what I said with him being efficient is that him being efficient matches the tone of the episode at that point because you've got the slow drowning music, you've got the muffled audio, you've
No,
got
I
Joel
think the tone
basically
is.
going.
I think it fits the tone. I think he can still be efficient, but there'd be more people for him to fight. I just want more
I
people. I just want the
disagree.
scene to go for longer because there are more people, not because he takes long to kill them.
I
think that those are two
agree
different
that I
things.
think the sequence should have been extended, but for reasons of like, I really want to see Joel like as the scene goes, get more and more desperate, more and more agitated, more and more emotional,
Yeah,
like
I feel
almost
like he
like
just kind of gets.
breaking
He just kind of
tears because there's a
overweights it
time
fast.
limit. He is very much
Exactly.
on a time schedule here.
I kind
So
of feel
the
like
That's
way-
the
tension
only
could've been
thing
a lot better
I'm
that
like
way.
really did bug me about it.
The way you'd need to frame that is that you'd still need to have him being a very proficient killer because if you start making him desperate and start making mistakes, I don't
No,
think
you
that
can
would
make
go
him
really,
desperate,
really well.
but it doesn't
I'm
need
not
to
saying make.
mistakes.
I'm not saying make mistakes. I'm saying him as a person. You see in Pedro's like expressions, like he's like more and more
Yeah, maybe
emotional,
he
more
lets out a
desperate because
scream or
he
something
is
when he's
very
like
much on a time limit.
Because I
between
thought the
people he's
intention
killing.
of this scene was that they were supposed to draw comparisons to what he said to Tommy in episode 6, where he says that he's changed, he's slower, he's
I
not
don't.
able to do the things that he
I
needs to do anymore, where beforehand, he'd be able to like handle himself relatively well. I thought that this was supposed to be a direct callback to that conversation with Tommy, where it's like, oh
no.
yeah, this is the old
I
Joel,
think
he's
the
taking care of
scene.
business.
See how I took
Even
the
if it is, I
scene.
don't understand how what we're saying could contradict
I
that.
do not agree that the scene paints him as evil. I think it paints him as like this is what he will go to save people he loves.
No, but I don't think Shandy's saying that it paints him as evil. I think it's
No.
just about
No,
his
yeah.
efficiency.
What I said was
Okay.
I thought that the scene was just saying, okay, this is Joel in his peak physicality because he's
Yeah.
actually very competent now. He's getting headshots left, right, and center. He's dodging shots. He's very calm and collected. He's able to do what he needs to do without any real problems, which I thought was a callback to episode 6, where he said, I I basically suffer from anxiety attacks whenever I get into fights. I'm not able to do what I need to do to protect Ellie. I need you to take her because I'm going to fuck up. And this is like, oh, this is what Joel would have been like if he didn't have those anxieties. He's very in control of the environment. And I think adding more people to the scene would have changed that outcome unless you just have Joel go absolute Rambo mode and just slaughter everyone in the hospital, which you could do, but you would have to do it in
But I
such a way
think
that it's
you can still
believable.
have him be efficient, and you can have him like kill like a bunch of people. Like
I also
that
don't think
way.
we see every kill he does. I think he's killed a lot of people, and that was like because it's in a montage form. He's
Yeah, that's
obviously they
what
show a lot of shots of dead people.
Yeah,
I think he's killed
assumed
way
that
more
was the
people than
case
we
too. I think they
see.
should have just. I think they should have just shown that. And like you said, Colin, I really would like
No,
the
I
idea
agree
of
because I think the
showing him
episode's too
being a
short.
bit more.
That's what I would say. I think the episode's
Yeah,
quite short.
I was very confused. It was like 45 minutes. I was watching with Shannon.
It's the shortest. It's the shortest of the whole season. That episode.
Yeah, I was very.
The funny
baffled,
thing
but,
is, it's the shortest episode of the entire season, and they still had a part in the show that you could have cut out completely, which is Ellie's mom giving birth to Ellie. I think that scene
and
is
the first
complete.
40 minutes of episode one.
It is so pointless. Well, no, I disagree. I think the first 40 minutes of episode 1 are quite cool. I like them there.
I
But that scene in
really don't
episode
like them.
9 is such a waste of time. And I get that they wanted.
I think it humanizes slightly for Marlene. I also think it's just a fantastic scene. I think Ashley Johnson does such a good job. It was actually the one scene in the whole show that actually almost made me cry. Like, because I really like the show a lot, but it didn't make me cry.
I think you get the
Maybe
same
because it's
amount
Ashley
of.
Johnson.
I think you get the same amount of depth to her character with just her talking about it later in the episode. Her being like, I was there when she was born, and shit like that. Like, I think that already does what that first scene was trying to do.
Yeah, it just that scene and just the overall tone of Joel going through the hospital, I think, were a little too much in trying to paint him as the bad guy rather than the ambiguous thing that they were trying to go through with the
Hmm.
games. But also just explaining how Ellie got immune was a little
Yeah,
bit.
I did not like that.
It was kind of. I don't know.
I don't.
I'm a little bit
I don't
iffy on
really
that
see the
one.
point in it.
Like
Mm.
Ellie's mom is able to fend off an infected just as it bites her, just as she gives birth, and she manages to give birth without even noticing that she gave birth because of all the stress that she's going through. And it's like you're adding
Uh,
on layer and layer and layer and layer and layer, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna feel like this is kind of bullshit. Like something he has to
I don't think
give.
that's the issue. Is just that I think the issue is more just like I feel like it's unnecessary to ever explain it. I don't think why. I don't think that you need to ever explain why she's immune. You can leave that very uh like open to interpretation. No, nobody knows why, and nobody will ever know why. And I think it's just very fine to do that. I find it strange to think that
Yeah.
like an explanation is needed at all, especially when like no one knows why like she became immune, so they can't replicate it. So it's kind of pointless because at least if Marlene was like, "Oh, I think I know why she was immune," and then like she tells the other Fireflies, and they try to do something like that with like
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think
other
no, that's
Marlene
actually a
does
really
characters.
good
know.
I think
point
that could have been more
because
interesting, but like nobody tries anything with that because like Marlene, I think I don't. I think she was just like, no, I think she.
I
I
think
guess she
Marlene could
believes
probably have
Ellie's
figured it
mom.
out. I feel like Marlene could
Yeah,
probably have figured it out.
yeah, I think she would have especially figured it out because it is impossible for her to have been bitten after she cut the the cord unless like the infected showed up after she had already been born. But that means that the baby would probably have been eaten or something. I think it's just a very weird thing to like buy that Ellie's mom is saying. I think it would have been more interesting if Marlene didn't buy and she kind of had an idea of why people were immune and maybe like she wrote it down somewhere. She recorded an audio like they do with the game of her like actually trying to like hypothesize about it, I guess.
No, but you see, if they
Which
actually
is why I
had a
kind of
different
think that
method
scene
of,
is.
if they actually had a different method of giving out the cure, which probably really wouldn't have been that great because you're just getting a whole bunch of pregnant women bitten, which is just
Yeah,
as
you're
they're about
killing
to
a bunch of
give
pregnant
birth.
women. Yeah,
But still, like
yeah.
if they had a different method of like gaining the cure, then it would make this final scene a little bit less intense because the entire point is, oh, Ellie's the only person that we know can do this, even though Marlene has
Mhm.
been shown, oh, I could
Yeah,
probably
it kind of implies that
maybe
like the
replicate this entire thing if I sacrifice a little bit more of my humanity and force a woman to get pregnant and then have her be bitten by an infected and then use that baby as an you know, she could probably do something like
she
that,
could
or the show
probably
could
get
play around with
fireflies
that.
that that get pregnant and volunteer to do shit like that because it's basically securing the future. You're securing that your child can never get infected.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
a lot of
she's
people would
already
be for
willing
that.
to like have Ellie go under the knife without her consent, so fuck
Yeah.
it, why not just ramp it up a little bit further?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we kind of got a little sidetracked because we were talking about our favorite episodes, and I think
Yeah, I haven't
I
said
am
mine yet.
yeah, I'm up next, and I'm going to really like talking about this one because I saw DB mentioning in chat that this is one of his least favorite episodes. My favorite episode of the season is episode 3. I fucking love episode 3. I think Bill and
Episode 3 is
Frank
great.
I think Bill and Frank are easily the two strongest characters in this entire show. Their dynamic is hilarious.
Probably agree.
They are very relatable. They are very real. The fact that Bill is such a self-sufficient man and he's able to look after himself to such a degree that is almost laughable. Where in like the quote unquote real world, he would have been made fun of as like a doomsday prepper. Meantime, it's the doomsday prepper who's like the only person still alive in that town. Um, I
Mm.
find that really really cool. Um, the way the episode is shot, I don't know. There's something about it that just looks very vibrant. It might just be because this is like the one place in America that isn't like complete shit besides the commune in episode 6. The
Mm.
way that they framed Bill and Frank, you know, just walking around the place, going for runs, it feels like it's from a different show, but I like that. It feels like a slice of life episode in a very dreary show, and it's quite nice. Then of course, I mean,
Mm.
you've got like the final 10 minutes of old Bill and Frank going around doing their things before they die, and then the mutual suicide.
Mhm.
I found that really touching. That was probably like one of the earlier, like one of the only moments in the show where a tear like was to be shed. Not that
Mhm.
fucking episode 9 bullshit.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
I didn't get emotional, but I can see why people would. That entire sequence is just
I
phenomenal.
did
I
mainly
really
because
love
of
it.
Ashley Johnson because I thought her performance was
My
actually like
Her
kind
first
of
performance is
incredible.
reaction to
good.
hearing Ashley Johnson on screen was, "Oh, hi,
Oh
Ellie."
yeah, yeah. Shandy was like,
I
"Wait,
also
why
do
are we
really
following
like the
Ellie?"
meta.
And then
I do like the meta
and
of
then
it.
we both realized, oh yeah, it's actually Johnson. That makes sense. We just
Yeah,
heard her grunting as she ran through the woods. That was
yeah.
funny.
It was just
Like instantly, I'm like Ellie, oh my god, and
yeah,
it's like,
it
oh
was
my
really
god, you're so
weird
great.
deja vu because we just hear her grunting and it's like, oh, Ellie's being chased by something, and me and Sky were like, wait, no, hold on, this is
Wait,
not what
this
Ellie sounds like in the show, and we're like, oh,
yeah,
right, it's Ashley Johnson. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes
But
sense.
But I do agree that episode 3 is pretty great. I really like episode 3
yeah,
a
I think
lot.
it's the best episode of the show. It's not my favorite, but I think it's the
Episode
best.
3 has one problem that I noticed, and that was when
Yeah.
Bill goes out to take on the raiders, but he has no cover. He's just shooting them in the open, and that's how he
That's
gets
really
hit.
stupid. That
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
insanely stupid.
that was a
That does
very
not fit
stupid
his
thing to do.
character at all.
No,
Yeah.
no, but that was like the only problem I noticed in that episode. If there is anything else, then I did not notice it. I'd need to watch it again. But I think episode
I
3, from
my
a character
one of my
standpoint, was
Rewatched
favorite
it.
very
part
strong.
one of my favorite parts from the episode is when Frank says, "Oh, I've been talking to a really nice woman on the radio," and Bill's like, "You what?"
Yeah,
That's
we made that a
so good.
meme because we watched that episode. Shandy and I watched that episode with Madvocate, and we just started laughing so much at that moment. We now say that every time someone says
The
like something
government
unexpected, we're just like, "You
sees.
what?" So yeah,
So
it is a
DV's
great
just said
moment.
something here, and I disagree with it. I like the story for episode 3. It just doesn't do much for me for the overall story of the season. The only thing that saves it in the end, saves it in that regard, is Bill's letter at the end. See, the thing is, this has been
I
pointed
don't think
out
it
by a
needs
few
saving. The
people.
episode's good.
No, but this has been pointed out by a few people, and I do agree with this, that the episode in general is like a commentary on Joel and Ellie's relationship. Like, it's a comparison point of how Joel would probably
Hmm.
behave with Ellie, and you can see how their relationship
Well,
would
I
grow.
think it's
But not
just
as lovers, but
you
more
know,
so father and daughter. Like, it's
yeah,
a comparison point to how Joel is with Ellie, and you get that with the
yeah,
letter at the end.
you know the song Joel plays to Ellie in the beginning of The Last of Us 2, that amazing scene. You know, the if I
No,
ever
because
were
I
to
haven't
lose
played
you,
the
I
game.
would lose myself. It's a great scene. I don't think it's my favorite from the second game because the astronaut shit is really great. Anyway,
Oh yeah, I mean,
and
this
losing
is
Ellie shit.
my only scene in the game I liked.
I liked a lot of the scenes. Anyway, the
Yeah.
I that the because I think that because like that was playing in my head when he was reading the letter, and he also came back and left behind when Riley was like, um, you know, why don't we just be all poetic and shit and lose our minds together, which is obviously also in the game, which I think is kind of like a point the show is making, as you said, like how a lot of the episodes and characters they kind of make points to like compare situations and people to Joel and Ellie and their relationship. That I think it does it quite well. Where it's showing how if Joel were to lose Ellie, kind of like how he lost Sarah, he would lose himself in the same way that Bill loses himself because of Frank. Um, and I think it's very poignant to show how much Joe cares about people, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to basically. He wants to shut people out. And so, like in the letter, Bill was like, "I hated you, but you know we're kind of like, but I respected you. We're basically friends or something." And I felt like Joe really was hurting in that moment, but he didn't want to like let it hurt because if he lets people in, then it's gonna hurt a lot. And it's the same thing with Tess. Tess's death of just being like not allowing himself to feel it. Like when Ellie tries to bring it up, he's just like, "You don't ever talk about Tess ever." So I think it relates to like the main arc of the show in a poignant way. I don't think it needs to exactly talk, like specifically show Joel and Ellie, in the for most of the episode to make a point about Joel and Ellie. It's just a point of comparison to show what would happen, in a world like this where you have one thing that makes your world basically like that makes you live, that makes you feel alive. And if you were to lose that, how far would you go? Like, would you just give up? Like, and then the finale also added the that Joel tried to kill himself.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Like
Yeah,
that
which I really
comparison gets
liked.
strengthened because Bill ends
Yeah,
up killing himself when Frank can't last any longer, and the first thing Joel did as soon as he lost Sarah the next day was
was
try
try
to
to
put a
kill
bullet in
himself.
his
Yeah.
mouth. Yeah, no,
Yeah, which I really liked because it kind of strengthens that point of how like the bond basically that you can build in a world like this. And if you lose that, like what else is there? Because if the world is lost, the only thing you have are the connections you have, and these people are losing. If you lose that connection, is it
it's
worth
it's
even going
exactly
on?
what
So I quite like that.
it's exactly what Bill says to Frank in their final moments that Frank was his purpose, and without it,
Hmm.
he has no reason to carry on. That's exactly how Joel
Hmm.
feels at the end of episode 9 because he's found another
Yeah,
purpose to keep going. Otherwise, he would have no.
yeah,
I mean, he's not exactly liked by the community in episode 6, with the exception of his brother. And if he brings back Ellie, then he'll probably be welcomed back in open arms. He is a bit of a recluse, so he probably doesn't like the company anyways. He can't really go back
yeah.
to the QZ because he's killed members of the QZ there. Tess isn't with him, so he's going to be by himself again. So he'd probably be fucking miserable as shit. So
Yeah, he'd have nowhere to go
the
except for
Fireflies
going.
don't want him because he's like,
Yeah,
fuck you, give me my
yeah,
shit. So literally, the only person he has at this point is Ellie. He would have
yeah.
nothing left if Ellie left him. So yeah, it kind of gives him an even more well, not justifiable, but an even more personal reason for wanting
Understandable.
to,
Yeah,
yeah, a more understandable reason for why he wants to save her at the end of that episode. So yeah, the
yeah.
Bill and
It shows
Frank
the
stuff
strength of the connection they
definitely,
built.
the Bill and Frank stuff definitely relates to the overall narrative when it comes to Joel and
Yeah.
Ellie's relationship.
Yeah, I can understand if you think it's just kind of like it is not about the main characters, but I do think it relates to them. I think saying it's just not important for the rest of the season, I really disagree because I think it not only draws a lot of
Well,
comparisons, but it does
well,
say a lot about Joe's character moving forward. Because that final scene of him reading the letter and he talking to Ellie, I think it kind of shows a lot. But even though he doesn't say much, he's saying a lot with his acting, which Pedro Pascal nailed that scene. So yeah.
well, what a reason why I like the letter so much is because Bill sees himself a lot in Joel, which then
Mhm.
obviously
Yeah.
develops a lot, along with the other stuff that I mentioned before, with Kathleen and her like sort of speech relating to Joel. I think about all those stuff is stuff that I've really liked throughout the season. There's stuff just building our understanding of like Joel, who he really is, and sort of how he builds his relationship with Ellie. And I actually agree. I really liked that scene in the finale with him talking about how, you know, it's not time that heals wounds, it's people. That's something I
Uh-huh.
really liked. That's something that
Yeah.
what's his name? Craig Mazin, is that his name? One of the writers.
Craig Mazin. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like in one of the inside episodes on the HBO YouTube channel is that it's not time that heals wounds, it's people, which is a concept I really like as an idea, and sort of
Yeah.
is kind of true. A lot of people can be the people that really heal things rather
Yeah.
than just time moving forward. It's something I really liked.
Yeah,
Well,
I quite liked. I think episode 3 is probably the strongest, just because of how much it develops these two characters and tells that self-contained story, but it also makes that larger point about just like life after the apocalypse. That I think not a lot of people can relate to the apocalypse, but I think a lot of people can relate to the idea of having just like someone be your whole purpose. And it's kind of interesting because the show kind of makes it romantic, and I think it's a bit self-destructive. But I think that's something that the finale tries to point out, that it's kind of self-destructive by having Joel just be like so like ready to get Ellie back, which is something that it's why I don't think it should have shown him as evil, which I do think it kind of does. But anyway, which is basically showing like how it's like a very codependent relationship that he has,
I
because if
am
he
going to
loses
be
Ellie,
right
he's
back,
losing
so keep
himself.
talking.
Yeah. Um, so if he loses Ellie, he's gonna lose himself, which is just not very healthy. You shouldn't like rely your mental health, your like life shouldn't rely on someone else. Um, and it's the same with Riley and Ellie, where Ellie's just like, "Don't go." At that moment, she starts crying. Right after she said, "No, you know what? I'm fine," because it's kind of like the only thing that's keeping you going is that one person. So yeah, I don't know. I like the idea that it makes a point that it's not entirely like a positive thing to have that a person like that in your life. Even though episode 3 kind of makes it like out to be a bit positive, I think the letter especially makes it a bit more like you sorry, a bit more that you can see how it's not entirely healthy, but at least that person kept you going. Whereas if you were on your own, you wouldn't have. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic to think about, and like that the show addressed it.
That's not really something I read really from it. What I get is just sort of the connection they have, Joel and Ellie, is very much just father and daughter, even though biologically they're not. It's very much that relationship, and it's very much what I take from the final episode is, you know, I've lost my train of thought. Fuck. It was pretty much just like people becoming between a father and a daughter. That's very much what I understood from, I guess, the whole season up
I mean,
till
yeah,
that
it is, but that
in that
isn't
final
really
moments.
against what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that relationship being so what makes these people like keep going. Like Joel lost Tess, and he only kept going because he made a promise to her, but she was like the only like he had her, and then he had kind of had Tommy, but he lost Tommy. Like he didn't have anyone else, and the only thing he has now is Ellie. If he loses if he loses her, I'm pretty sure he would kill himself, and he does lose himself when he thinks he's about to lose her, which is the point of him killing all those people, and just going like berserk. Like, and even as I said, the song of being like, if I ever were to lose you, I would lose myself. Like it's not a healthy outlook, but it is one that happens so much in this show, and in the show and in the first game, and the second game tries to make a point about it, but it does it poorly. About the strength of these connections leading you to the like bad things, like killing people and trying to just like protect them from anything.
I think it would probably be a good idea if we just move on to what your favorite episode of the season is, Skye, since you've mentioned before you don't have much time, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's episode 6. It's my favorite.
Oh,
I
well, it's
really,
funny you mentioned that because Aspiring Writer says that episode 6 has
yeah,
fantastic character work,
I
so that's
read
cool.
that. I was thinking, oh, that's funny. Yeah, I think 6 is my favorite. I really like seeing Joel being a different, like meeting different people and being like very judged for it. But we know that he's changed a lot to a point where his character, like I kind of feel really bad about his character because he's not the same person that these people think he is. And in that same vein, he's kind of like he doesn't. That makes him think that, as well as just like the fact he's having panic attacks, that he's not good enough to protect Ellie, um, which is a really interesting, just a really interesting inner conflict for Joel to have. That's what I call an inner conflict, because he's always hired for being the best in the business, but he's lost people along the way because like of his failures and shit like that. Like Ellie even mentioned like Tess and Sam, and she lost Riley as well. But like those two, Joel would probably take some responsibility for. Like he even says I couldn't defend, like I couldn't defend Ellie when she was being attacked by Sam. I just stood there and watched the brother kill someone kill his own brother to save Ellie, and I couldn't do anything. But it kind of reinforces what I was saying about like their connection with Ellie and Joel being so strong by that point, that like it's the only thing keeping the two going. Where Joel is like, you should have a choice, and Ellie's just like, let's go to Joel. Like she doesn't even think twice, because even if he isn't as good as Tommy or whatever, she would feel much safer with someone she knows and she loves, like she does Joel. So it kind of shows the strength of the relationship they've built throughout the season, which I appreciate quite a lot. And I really like seeing Tommy as well. I think he's a cool character. I like Maria a bit as well, but I think Tommy, especially showing how he's tried to move on from that past with Joel, and how Joe was kind of, like he even says, like your life stopped, but ours didn't. I think that's kind of a neat idea as well because Joe's been stuck in time ever since Sarah died, and the first time he's been able to move on from it is now because of Ellie, and he's kind of willing to give that up to protect Ellie, which would kind of like it would be terrible for him personally, but he thinks it's what would be best for Ellie because he just thinks he's not good enough for her, which is just like I don't know. I think it's all very interesting conflicts that relate a lot to Joe's journey throughout the season, of basically learning that he is worth something. I guess that he isn't just like surviving, like the endure and survive thing that they mentioned in the comic, that I think is also another point the show wants to make, but that he also like needs to live, and so he wants to live with Ellie, but he has that fear of like am I good enough for her, which is just like it's a lot that's doing for Joel, and by the finale you kind of understand where he's at, where he's just like, okay, I'm not gonna lose her like ever, like I don't care what happens, I'm just not gonna lose her. So I think that episode, I think, is the one that does the most to get Joe to the point in the finale where I believe what he's doing.
I also think episode 6
Also,
is
Gabrielle
one
Luna's
of
great.
the nicer looking episodes in terms of like the environments. I don't know
Mhm.
what it is, but I just really like snowy landscapes and like
Oh yeah,
trudging
me
through
too. Those are
ice and
great.
the deer and everything that they've got, even the
Yeah, I like
horses.
the near the river, the set pieces. They were all great. I really liked it.
Also, the two Native American characters at the start of the episode were kind of funny. Like, the dude comes back
Oh, they
home
were great.
from a hunt, and then he sees his wife sitting in the chair, and she's like just chilling. And then there's a guy with a
Yeah,
gun
I
in
thought
his
that was
face, and
funny.
it's like, oh, not this stuff again. It's a Tuesday already. And then
Yeah, and it was funny because you're like, well, he didn't shoot me. It's like, well, did you make him soup? And you're like, well, it was cold. It was just so funny. I like that.
yeah, they're both characters who like just don't even like give a shit that this guy's here with a
Yeah,
gun in their face. They just want to do their own thing and carry on with life. I found that
yeah,
really funny. Um,
yeah. I quite liked it.
But also the presentation of the commune I thought was pretty cool. The fact that, they've got this old town running up again, they've got movies playing once or twice a week,
Yeah,
they've got kids hanging out and going to schools and whatnot. It's quite neat.
yeah.
I also find it funny that Tommy's girlfriend, I can't remember her name, refers to the commune
Maria.
as communists because I know that
Mhm.
that got a whole bunch of people upset on Twitter. I was
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
especially funny because Joel later in the episode says, "No, America was too big for that." It's kind of like,
yeah, it
yeah,
wouldn't have
communism
worked in
wouldn't work.
this.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked in an entire country. Yeah, it's just yeah, whatever. People getting mad at it is so silly.
Like, I don't even think. What was her name again?
Maria.
I don't even think Maria fully believes that either. I think she was just trying to rile up Tommy and Joel because she knows that it
Mhm.
upsets them, which very clearly seemed like that was the intention. She's like, "Oh no, it's
Yeah, she
absolutely."
she was making fun of Tommy quite clearly. I don't think she doesn't believe it. I think she does. I just think it is the kind of thing where she wouldn't insist so much on it if not to make fun of Tommy, being like, "No, we're not communists. Pff, we wouldn't be." Like I just find it funny because obviously being he's a he used to be military and shit, like that would make Tommy a very much like a patriot guy, like an anti-communism type. And so imagining that he lives in a communist life basically, and that it actually functions well, I think it's funny to make fun of him for. Like that
Yeah,
you actually like, oh shit, communism actually works here. Oh no. Um, I just think people take that line like
way too
firstly way too
seriously.
seriously, and secondly just like okay, they have a commune with 300 people that works with communism. Just chill, dude. It's not. It's fine. It's not. Joel even says the entire country couldn't run like that, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's because firstly, Marlene. Sorry, not Marlene. What's her name again?
Maria.
Maria, sorry. Maria and Tommy make it very clear that they are very picky about who they let into the commune. I mean, they hold Joel
Mhm.
and Ellie at gunpoint. They have sniffer dogs to make sure that they aren't infected. So
Yeah.
yeah, the communist paradise would probably not have been that great had they just let anybody in because,
Oh yeah.
you need people to do the specific jobs that they need to be have done in order for the commune to work. And if people just
Hmm.
show up, they don't do fucking anything, then it's like, oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
basically useless. You aren't contributing anything to the group. Leave.
Yeah. Just another mouth to feed. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, But yeah, I think episode 6 is pretty good. I don't like it as much as episode 3 or even episode 5. I like episode 5 specifically for the Henry and Sam stuff, but episode 6 I thought was pretty good just to delve a little bit deeper into Joel as a character. It makes things that he
Mhm.
does later on a lot more engaging and believable. So I
Yeah.
like it for that reason. But besides that, I mostly like episode 6 just for the setting. The character stuff I wasn't too um big on. It was fine. Wasn't anything bad about it. It's just not anything that stuck out to me particularly well, I guess. It was just there.
No, you're allowed your wrong opinion.
Thank you, Sky, very much for repeatedly insulting my opinions this entire stream. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I'm here for, man.
But with that said, I think it would be interesting to discuss what we all think is the worst episodes, and I think we'll go right to left this time since Sky's going to be leaving soon. And Sky, I think I
Mhm.
already know which episode you think is the worst, so why don't you just say it?
I said 5 earlier, but the one that I like the least, and I think it's probably worse than episode 5 actually, is episode 1
Yeah,
because I
I
think
figured it
it's
would be
just
episode 1. I don't think you would have given it to episode 5 even with the last 15 minutes just because the character work is so great. Because you said that the first 40 minutes of episode 1 could be cut.
I
I don't
might be
agree.
exaggerating. I just remember that I paused after 40 minutes. I was like, I'm kind of done. And then I went to watch the episode like a couple of days later because the episode was just kind of,
Long.
I don't know. Yeah, it's way too long, and I feel like so. I really so first off, the first scene, terrible scene, just terrible. I don't understand what the point is of having the scene of the character being like, oh, you know, uh, there may be fungus that grows and kills a bunch of people, and there's
Yeah,
nothing
I
we can
found
do
that
about it.
really, really weird. And I was like, what are you trying to convey? What is the like tone supposed to be going here for? Like
So I think the
you're
point is just to be like, oh, it's scary and it's mysterious, but it's kind of like it takes away from the mystery once we're building up the actual fungus, right? Because let's say you don't have that scene, and you've not played the game. If you watch it and you see people going like crazy, right? Like the old lady behind Sarah, that's gonna be much scarier because you'll be like, what is happening, right? You don't understand what the origin of that is. You don't know anything. Um, and if you have played the game, that entire first scene is like, yeah, we know all of this. We know that the fungus can be stopped. There's no cure, whatever. Like, there is just no point to that scene at all. I think it just detracts from the episode and it wastes some time. It's also like, what is it, like 1970s, whatever, being like, oh, some decades ago, being like, oh, fungus, it could destroy us in a few years. And then it just kind of ends. I don't get why that scene exists at all. It
so
seemed really
I
strange to
get
me.
why it exists. I just think that the tone that they're going for there is a bit silly because you've got this very serious subject material, but obviously got a TV show that they're trying to run. They're trying to keep it lighthearted and family friendly. So this guy's like dropping these nuclear takes, but he's also like trying to be
Mhm.
jovial and having fun with it. So I found that just a little bit jarring, but I can get why they were going for it because it's an awkward situation to be in. But I feel like the actual delivery of information is fine, and the reason why they're doing it is fine. Because yeah, I mean, this fungus, I think it's shown again in episode 2 that people around the world were figuring out that it was happening, and they were trying to do something about it. So to have someone like this who is an expert in that field being like, yeah, no, there's something growing, or there might be something growing in the future that we won't be able to stop unless we like change our ways. That's fine. It gave me
I think it's fine if it's not, if it's in a, if it like it kind of feels like they show that and then it just kind of happens. It's not like they're building up to like, oh, there's something that goes wrong. It's just like we jump to a few years ahead, and I guess
Well,
like
no, that's not
people are
necessarily true
just
because the entirety of the first 40 minutes of episode 1 is build up to the inevitable outbreak. You get it with
yeah, but
scenes
that's
where
not what I'm saying.
Sarah's visiting her neighbor and then you see like the grandma in her chair kind of like schizo posting in the background, which I thought was fucking creepy. Like that scene
I
of
didn't
her
like
like
that.
just like jitting around in her chair. I really like that. I thought that was
I
I
like the
really didn't
idea of
like
it.
that.
I
I thought
feel
that was
like
very
it
silly.
feels like with that shot, it's the point of that kind of shot is to be like you can miss it in the background if you're not really paying attention. But because the scene has such dead air, it's almost impossible not to see it. I
Well,
remember
yeah.
thinking that when I first saw it, it's like, what else am I meant to look at? Because Sarah's not saying anything or doing anything other than looking at like a bunch of DVDs and that's it. If she was like talking to the woman in the other room, I think it's a lot more effective because it's not like it's like weirdly dead air, and I didn't like it about that shot. I feel like that shot could have been done a lot better if there was dialogue over it, because to distract you, because that's the point of that kind of shot. It's to be background. It's to be a little bit unnoticeable, but it is there if you pick up on it. Because that's the kind of point of those
she
shots.
was taking up about solid half of the screen, so I think that the point of that was to show it happening without.
But no, but it's blurred. No, I get that, but it is blurry. It's like it's not the focus. It's literally not in focus. But the point of the shot is to be like this creepy thing that's not like fully there, you know.
So
but I feel like having it with complete dead air is like
so the
strange
thing I understood
to me.
about that was that it is supposed to be a focus, but it's not a focus to the characters because they don't notice it happening yet. They get inclinations of it happening from other characters, like with the Arabian family who tells Ellie to leave after she gets her watch fixed. They're like, no, you gotta go, lock your door, stay inside, there's gonna be something bad happening today.
Well, I
Sarah
think
doesn't know what that means, but we know because we saw
No, I get the concept. I think the execution just wasn't very good.
I think
I don't agree. I think it was done well, but fine.
I think that scene, I don't like it. I find it silliest because of the opening scene. Because if they hadn't mentioned the fungus, if they hadn't mentioned like what was going to happen, because they basically set up everything that's going to happen, the outbreak. If you don't, and you actually have the outbreak building up slowly in that first episode with Sarah, I think it's much more effective. Because the way it is, you're just kind of like, well, I know the outbreak is going to happen. I'm just waiting for it to happen, basically. Which just makes me like, okay, just like let's get to the point. Which that scene is what it kind of made me feel like, just like please get to the point. I know what's happening.
See,
so
I don't
if you
like
didn't
that
have that
line of
opening
thinking
scene,
because it's removing an element of world building that I think adds to the overall story. Because it's making it more of a global pandemic rather than something that felt very isolated to America.
wait, how does this? How does this have anything to do with what I'm saying? I'm saying
So
the
you're
opening
saying
scene
you're
is
saying that
saying
removing the opening
is
scene is going to add more to getting towards the point of the actual episode, which is the outbreak itself. You want to kind of get rid of what you think is filler. I'm saying that I don't think it's filler because it's contributing to an overall world building thing going on where it's like, yeah, this thing that's our characters are facing, this is felt by everyone globally, and this is the reason why. And that gets
well, we can
re-emphasized in
see that it's
episode
felt
2
by
because of the thing
everyone
in the
because we see a lot
Philippines.
of like a lot of that is done visually. We have the jets flying overhead. We have a lot of people trying to drive away, and then people being like, "Oh, I think it happened in the big city." Like that already happens. And if, as you said, at first that scene of episode 2, which I also didn't really like, was showing the effects in other countries. So you don't need that scene to be like, oh, it is happening in other countries. We know it is an outbreak. And there's a lot of world building to do to be like to what they say about the government not being able to handle it. Like we see that it's felt everywhere. Just because they're saying only about the American government, I can still buy that it is about other countries. Especially because Joe even mentions like how the outbreak started. It was like, oh, it's probably like an ingredient in some food that people ate like on Thursday, and then Friday people were infected. It's kind of like, oh, so yeah, it's not only in America. Like they mentioned that throughout the season. I don't think it was necessary to have a scene to be like, oh yeah, if this happens, the entire world is affected, because I think it's just kind of self-evident that the entire world would be affected by the rest of the season. And especially because like if you have that scene of the old lady going all flumpy, right? If you don't have the opening scene, you're kind of like, wait, what's going on? You know, if you've not played the game. If you've played the game, you're like, oh, that's kind of neat, I guess. But if you've not played the game, if you don't know what it's being set up with the outbreak, and you're just kind of like, wait, what's happening? And then you get that confusion, that mystery. You're on the same boat as Sarah, which I think is way more effective. To have like that confusion in the beginning of the story, just kind of what I like about the beginning of The Last of Us. You're just kind of thrown into the middle of a night that is very like very normal for Sarah, but you kind of see the hints of like shit going wrong. You see the TV, you see the
explosion in the background.
you see like people driving around. Yeah, there's a lot of shit that you do like just visually in the game that I think could have been done in this as well, to make it subtler and I guess not like try to drive home the point of like, yeah, we know. Like for me, it's just like, yeah, I know that
right,
these
he's not. Skye's not saying that they need to cut Sarah out. Skye's saying that they need to cut out the opening scene where the dude from the Mummy is talking directly to the camera about what the outbreak is going to be.
Yeah, I do think the Sarah
Oh,
bit
the
could have
Sarah
been
death is
cut
like very
down.
important. No one's suggesting that. That's
Oh
like
no, yeah,
so
I'm not saying her
important to the
death. I think her
story.
bit in the story should have been cut down, but I don't think she would have been cut out. No way. I really like what the opening scene of Sarah does.
I understand what they tried to do, but I just feel like just start where the game starts and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I
honestly.
think if you did that, because like you get the same amount of information in the game as you do in the show, I feel, but the show takes way longer because like, oh, she goes to fix the wash, and there's some cops in the background, and you see cops all day. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know, like the outbreak is happening, and it's especially jarring for me because there was the first scene to be like, oh, an outbreak could happen, and then we cut away to the day the outbreak happens. Like, yeah, okay, I know what's gonna happen here. If you don't have that scene, and you have the impression of just like she's just living her normal day, and you're like you pick up on these details as it goes on, like, I wonder what's happening. Again, from the point of view of someone who hasn't played the game, I feel like that would have added a lot to the scene of like building up to something, because I already know what it's building up to, and it kind of feels like it's taking too long to get to the point because it's doing atmosphere. It's not really doing like, I don't think it's adding much to Sarah's character to be like, oh, she likes to hang out with the neighbor. I'm like, okay, she does, I guess. Like, I don't get
She
much
doesn't
from
need
it.
much character. She doesn't need much character at all because the game we get enough where we get a good establishment of what relationship is between
Yeah.
Sarah and Joel.
Yeah,
I think
I think
that's
it would have been
all
fine
you
if
need
they.
because that's the point. Because the point is Sarah is to die to affect Joel in a 20-year span.
Yeah, I think if I wouldn't, if I had to like keep some of the addition, I probably would have kept the scene where Joel gets home, and they start watching the film. I think it's like the one scene that's added in the show that I was like, you know what, I think this was a worthy addition.
And even then, that's just slight additions to already the game opening, which is the same sort of scene.
Yeah, yeah, they even have the dialogue from the game. It's just that I like Joel, that moment of Joel getting home. I think it's nice. But other than
so
that, it's just mostly
preferred if it was a little
game
shorter but sweeter type thing, yeah.
Yeah, I just wish it was like the
Just
game,
keep it
which is
higher.
just I think the game it does like delivers us basically the same information in much shorter time. So it kind of makes me like, okay, let's get to the point. Like her fixing the clock and getting money from Joel, like stealing Joel's buddy to fix his watch, and I'm like, okay, like I know
Also,
that this happens. She even tells it to Joel later. So do I need to say this? Oh, it's because it's setting up like that. Like the people at the store were being like, no, let's close, and there's the police. But I'm like, okay, the outbreak happening. Like you don't need to have all these scenes of like police and shit like that. It just all feels unnecessary because it's just showing the same information we're gonna get when they get to the scene where they're driving the car around the city. I feel
like Sarah asking like the one line I was really weirded out by was like Sarah saying, I noticed like a lot of cops around, like even though she saw like one cop car, even though I see like police cars like every other day in my normal life, and I don't go to my dad and be like, hey, is there an apocalypse happening? I've seen a lot of cop cars recently.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where the
show that was really silly.
The show sometimes, not often, but I think sometimes it kind of beats you over the head with what it wants you to pick up, and that was one of the moments that's why I didn't like it, because I was just like,
I think early on
she doesn't need to point out. Yeah, I think that's what my problem. I think the first two episodes they're kind of hard to get through for me. But I think as the show goes on,
episode 2.
I got through episode.
Oh no, episode 2 I think was more boring. I like but I think episode 1.
I was the opposite, really.
Yeah, no,
I think episode 2 is more boring. But I think episode.
I think I had the hardest time watching episode 1 the first time round. I was just not getting into it, and maybe that was a slight bit unfair. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of stuff. I'm like, why was that changed? That's just a worse version. Like the plane crashed. I thought that was fucking silly.
Yeah,
I thought
that was
insanely
silly.
Like I wanted to mention the plane crash, but then I was like, probably not. I think of
the crane crash is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
it's so dumb. Just have a car crash. It makes so much more sense.
Well, I'm at least glad someone agrees with me on that point, because I mentioned that when I was watching it with a few other people, and they were like, "Oh no, the plane crash looked cool." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
No, it didn't. It looked fucking stupid.
It was just like
it's
like
so
huge. It's like a huge thing. It's the kind of thing you're like, wait, how did how are they even alive after all that? That's like a plane, dude. Did you have an idea how big and how high a plane
Well,
would
it's
have
like
to
a.
be?
I don't even know what the fuck hit them. It was like some sort of wheel
I think it was some
thing.
kind
I
of
don't know what it
I
was.
just thought it was
Man, I
really
don't know exactly.
ambitious for the show to put a TASM 2 reference in there like that. I thought it was pretty neat.
Oh yeah, a 9/11 reference, right? Because they're trying to manipulate it. Do you know that reference, Colin? Because Shandy does.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I
I don't.
referenced it yesterday when
In
I was watching Postal 2 with Madvocate. It was great.
Good. So in Ralph the Movie Maker's video on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he says that the plane crash scene, where the planes are going like
Oh,
towards each
yeah,
other.
okay.
That scene is like basically trying to remind you of 9/11 to emotionally manipulate you
What?
because planes. Yeah.
Editron, weren't you on that?
How does that
episode?
It's
No, it was CG. Colin doesn't
Right.
like TASM 2.
Ah,
no, I don't. But that's weird comment to make. You know,
That's
that's really
it was very
strange.
funny. Yeah. But anyway, but also like so I think I have the most issues with that. I just think it kind of wastes time. But I find it so here's a question and maybe maybe I'm just stupid and I didn't get it. But
Yep.
Joe was like,
I mean, that's true, but regardless, yeah.
it happens sometimes, yeah. But Joe was like, okay, so I'm gonna sell my battery, but that I actually need my battery, like the car battery, right? And they're just like, no, I need to get it back right after he sold it. So I'm just like, why did you sell it? Because that's different for the game. Because in the game, he sells guns, but they don't pay him. So
I thought that
Tess
would
and him
change. I feel like that whole change from changing from like guns and weapons and stuff to a car battery to get Tommy. I felt like it just feels like a worse version to get to the Ellie part.
Yeah, that's the thing that confused. But the thing that confused me is just because like he says he needs the truck battery, but then he says truck battery. He says he needs it, but he sells it. I don't get it. I don't know if I'm just.
I would have to
stupid and I missed,
rewatch.
like a
I would have to
dialogue, but he
rewatch
was
the
like,
whole thing.
he was like, I need the truck battery because I need to go after Tommy, but he also sells it. Like, let me see if I can find the dialogue. The Last of Us.
I'd have to rewatch that. I
Friends.
was just annoyed that they cut out a lot of the Robert stuff because I think the Robert stuff is really good. Like introduction to Joel and Tess as characters.
I think so
like
too,
that scene with Robert was great.
Well, the thing that I liked a lot in the game is that it shows how formidable you are as a smuggler, as whatever, without telling you. Because you know the moment where Joe smashes the door open when he's running after Robert, that's kind of like a moment where like, holy shit, Joe is like not messing.
Or just around. The whole scene of like them, like Joe and Tess talking to Robert. That whole scene is so good because it's such a great indication of like when Tess shoots Robert in that really great shot. Like I'm sad that wasn't.
Oh
in the
I
show.
love that shot. Yeah.
Like Joel doesn't flinch at all, and that's just like, man, he has just. This is just normal to him.
But the thing that
I feel like that's missed in that
first episode. Tess says like, "Oh, Robert is scared of you, so he's gonna run away if he sees you coming." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay. So you're just telling me that he's scared. You're not showing me how scary Joe is. You're telling me." I felt like that was just like a necessary change to just like, I guess diminishes a little bit of the storytelling of the show because it felt like a show, like a tell-done show kind of thing. It annoyed me.
Writer Skye and Ed didn't say Joel was trying to sell the battery. They said Joel needed the battery, but that Robert also needed it, but that he was going to try and sell it, which they found confusing. They did not say Joel's trying to sell the battery.
Yeah, as far as I know, he already sold it, and then he's trying to get it back. I don't understand what's happening because he says it's his battery, but then they need to steal it back from Robert. But if he needs it, why did he sell it in the first place?
No, I think they sold.
I just think the whole scene's a weird change.
I think they sold something to Robert in order to get the car battery from him as payment for what they sold to him. But then Robert kept it.
No, he sells the battery to Robert because he's like, it's just a truck battery. I paid for it, and then Joe needs to steal it back because he needs it to go find Tommy. Which is what I'm confused
really
about.
Stupid because I don't remember it that way at all.
I thought
they were going to get the car battery from him, and then they sold something to him, and then Tess was pissed because she didn't get what she paid for.
As far as I know, he sold the battery to him, but that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I just feel like the game version of how they deal with Robert and how they introduce Ellie was just better. I think it was way more concise. and a lot
Yeah.
more effective.
Yeah, and also they changed. I don't remember what it was. I think it's been too long since I watched
Also, one thing
episode
I'm
1,
noticing
but
about
they
this
changed
remastered
something.
gameplay is that it's
Mm.
significantly worse than. Oh, sorry, this remake gameplay is significantly worse than the remaster. I don't know what it is about it, but it just looks awful. It looks so shit.
Yeah, they changed the atmosphere to
really
look
don't
more
like the
realistic.
lighting. I
Yeah,
don't like the lighting at all.
there was
Yeah.
something they changed about the guy, the guard, that catches them outside. That I remember annoying me a little. I don't remember what it was because it's been a while since I watched episode 1. But basically the guard, I think Joel sells to him like some drugs, right? And then the guy is just kind of like, and then that's the same guy that meets them outside. I think they tried to add a little bit of character to him, and it felt kind of weird.
Hmm.
I don't remember what it was exactly, but I remember being a little annoyed. Oh, see, so okay, so it's just a truck battery. This is um Robert talking to Tess. It's just a truck battery. I paid you for it. You sold it to someone else. No, wait, what? Who's saying this? Is it Tess? I think it's. I don't know. I guess I need to check the episode. I'm trying to check the transcript, but it doesn't say.
Well, yeah, I
Robert, it
haven't
just
watched
says
the
someone.
episode in a long time, like since it came out, so
Yeah, but
I
there's
don't remember in terms of like the
he sold her
exchange.
battery to someone else. I just need to check it up. Your cards back or the battery. I need the battery test.
Well, I think I'm going to move on to my least favorite episode, and I've been kind of like thinking about this for a little while because I was initially going to say episode 2 because I thought episode 2 was weaker than episode 1, and I didn't like a few of the changes that they made. But then I thought about it more, and I actually think episode 4 would be my least favorite, and that's specifically because it comes directly after what I think is the best episode of the show, which is episode 3.
I
Um,
like episode 4 a lot.
I like episode 4 for
Which
some
one
of
is
the stuff.
for?
Episode 4 is the
4 is the one
where
where we get a lot of like Joel and Ellie bonding. They're driving
it's
to
the
the
one where they
city,
drive
Oh yeah,
and
into
it's
then
when
they
they crash the
Kathleen's.
yeah.
car, right?
Yeah,
It's when they crash the car.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
like
You
that
get that
episode.
really good scene between
fine.
Joel and Ellie after the fight they have, and he sort of like he feels bad for like not really properly protecting Ellie, which is a really good scene.
So the reason why I'm not a big fan of this episode is specifically to do with Kathleen and her group. One of the things I didn't like about Kathleen is the show does this thing with her where they try and make her this sympathetic villain, and they try and give
Did
her
they?
justifiable reasons for
Did
why she's
they? I
doing
don't get
stuff.
that at all. I didn't think they trying to make her sympathetic at all.
Yeah, I don't
They
think they tried
no,
to make her
they
sympathetic at
absolutely
all.
do. Like she's trying to do all this stuff to get back at people who were pro
I feel
Fedra.
like
She's
she's
trying to
very
make
much a bad
No, I
person, and the
no,
show
no,
yeah,
no, no, no,
because
no.
very
like
Let me
much
let me
describes her as that.
let me finish. Let me
yeah.
finish. So the scene starts off with her trying to get information on the person who sold out their leader to Fedra, and she's trying to do what she thinks is right for her community at this point. But then they uh, kind of do a flip, and then they go outright into the bad guy stuff by having her killing a whole bunch of surrendered people in a room without them being able to defend themselves. That's when I'm
Yeah.
going, oh, so they basically turning her into Killmonger. Cool.
Yo, yeah,
And
she's evil.
the
I
thing,
don't think she thinks she's
Oh yeah,
helping
she's not a good
anyone.
person. She's not a good
Yeah.
person.
no, I know
Yeah, I
she's
don't
not a
think
good
the
person.
episode ever
That gets
tries to
explained
do
further
it.
in episode 5. But I'm talking about when I watched episode 4. I haven't rewatched the show again. I'm talking about just my initial experience watching episode 4. And I thought
Mhm.
episode 4 was kind of weird to watch through. And one of the things that I found really odd about her decision making was she killed the person who was looking after Sam and Henry and who gave them supplies and medicine and whatnot. The doctor. I found it really odd that she killed the doctor because he's a doctor. I'm assuming you don't have a lot of those running around. Like a doctor is probably like one of the most valuable people in your commune. What the fuck are you doing killing him?
I don't think she. I think it's just a point where she can't trust him at all. So she would have killed him. Like, because let's say she lets him free. Like in her head, she's always gonna think, oh, he's gonna betray us again. He's not gonna help the people I want him to help because he's betrayed us already. I think that's her line of thinking.
Yeah, I
Which I think
understand her
is
line of
not the
thinking. I
most
just don't
logical.
agree with it. Yeah, no, it's not the most.
Oh
It's
yeah.
definitely not
Oh
the
yeah,
most
I don't
logical
agree
fucking
with it
thing.
either. I just think it's I think it's fine for her character.
I believe that's
I-
something
I
from what we understood about Kathleen. That's something she would do.
Yeah, but that's only because the episode is going really into making her the bad guy. Like, not just a bad guy, but
Yeah.
the, like, John bad guy type stuff, which was very silly for me. Like, it is outright ridiculous to me that she's, like, trying to take charge of this commune and, like, she's trying to be the boss of everyone, but then she actively fucking ruins it for everyone else by killing a doctor, by not
Well,
making
she's
people,
not a
like,
good
aware.
leader. She's a good rebellion person. She's not a good leader.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, but,
Yeah, I
like,
think
fuck,
No,
there's
she's
an
she's
element of
that
the
is
yeah.
story
like
you have to
that is
show.
like that is very much established like early on, like
Yeah, I
episode
think she
4,
knows
and
how
then
to lead
obviously
a
Yeah,
explained
but there's a
rebellion.
further in
Like
difference
she
episode
knows
between
how to
5.
being a
lead
bad
people.
leader and making such an incredibly stupid decision as killing potentially your only doctor. Like, I'm assuming there's at least one other person where
Well,
her
that's the
Well,
point.
purpose.
probably
Her
more
she
not.
that's the point. She's too like vengeance driven. That's the point,
Yeah, she's too
and that's very
focused
much
on
established in the
getting
show.
revenge that she doesn't care about
That's
leading people.
the
She cares
show. The
about
show
yeah,
knows she is like awful at what like what the new job for her is. Be an
yeah.
actual leader. She is not fit for that
Yeah, it's the kind
position,
of thing where
and she
like
kind of
if her
knows that.
brother yeah, I think if her brother was alive, he would be the one that would actually know how to
Yeah, but
lead
I
people.
don't care
Yeah,
She
about
knows
the
and
how
they
to
brother
and
lead
in
a
the
just yet.
end
family.
There
they
has to
all
be other people
and
in
in the
this room who
end they
tell
all
her, no,
die
this is a
because of
horrible
it.
idea. Like, yeah, we appreciate the fact that you, like, helped us out of the Fedra situation, but you're killing our only doctor, or you're killing one of our doctors. This is, like, one of the
Well, they
most
don't
important.
know, do they?
How the fuck do they not know? This person's been in this place now for ages. Fedra didn't just, like, show up a week ago and then die. That this person's been a clearly established character for a while now. They would all know he's a doctor.
What? What?
Because he's a doctor. Fuck, you go there for a
What?
paper
She's a
cutter, you go
doctor
there
who
for an
works for
infection.
Fedra. These people are fighting against Fedra. Do you think they just have like the
I mean,
list of
Fedra
names and
isn't a secret
faces for everyone?
organization. The entire point of Fedra is that they're supposed to keep the
I'm not
commune
saying it's a secret
secure.
organization. I'm
How would they
saying
not know
that
he's a
like
doctor?
getting someone's name like that.
Well,
Because
so
you
this
need
all
to find
happens
out
between
that person's name.
like in the
What?
space
Do
of
you know
like
who that
2 weeks. This all happens in the space of like 2 weeks. Like, and I don't think the show very much gets across that a lot of her followers, quote unquote, are really like not really seeing her. Like the Tommy voice actor character who's got the big white beard, looks very cool. There's very much times where he's like you get very much from his expressions like he is just not agreeing with what she's doing, but because of what rebellion was. But it's very much clear to me that the show knows all this, and it's very much, in a lot of scenes. And I very much think this show is very
Editron, you're
consistent on
currently
that
breaking up a little bit.
with Kathleen.
Yeah.
Oh, my internet isn't great.
You're
Basically, my point is
fine
that the
now.
show. Okay. What I was saying was like there's a lot of times, especially with the Tommy's voiceover character. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but the guy with the big white beard. There are very much times where you can see in his face that he is not fully on board with this. The show very much knows that Kathleen and the people she's leading, that Kathleen is not, in a very, she's not a good leader in what they need her to be, really. She's making really rash decisions based
Well, I
on
think that
her
would just
as a
I
person
think
and
that
a
would just
vengeance.
strengthen my point that the people they seeing her
I don't
making
think
these
it does
rash
strengthen.
No, no, no.
Yeah, but
They
again,
see her
this all
making these
happens in the
brash
space of 2
decisions.
weeks. There's not going to be like a rebellion on her so soon after.
Well, they wouldn't be a rebellion because it's one person, and if most of these people think that she's making really stupid decisions after getting rid of Fedra, I'm feeling like a lot more people would be like, "Hey,
But
Kathleen,
everyone,
maybe
the
just
things that's
fucking calm
happening right
down."
now is just focusing on getting Sam and Henry, which is pretty simple. Not simple, but like that's their task. They're going to go and do that. I don't really agree that the show does a poor job of it.
The thing
Really, I just
is,
don't agree.
two people, like, sure, it's important to find them because of what Henry's responsible for, but at the same time, the show also shows Kathleen, considering all these other things that's going on. She's trying to get information from the doctor, and she's executing the traitors that were pro Fedra. She's made aware of the infected area that's going on. There was one other thing that she did in the town square. I can't remember what that was, but she's clearly, like, trying to be more involved in other aspects of the community that isn't just solely focused on getting Henry and Sam. Like, she's at least cherry picking some other things to do. And if other people are aware of her sole desire of just getting Henry and Sam, and then they feel, oh, this person isn't really helping me to the best of my regard, and more people feel like that over I mean, 2 weeks is more than enough. 2 weeks is more than enough. That's like ample time for people to go, okay, Fedra's gone. We've got most of the stragglers out of the way. We need some drastic changes to be made right now because we're currently in a really bad situation. You aren't doing a great job of that, so can we get someone who actually knows what they're talking about? 2 weeks feels like more than ample time for that discussion to at least happen. Not necessarily action, but the
I think
discussion
the
to be
point is
made.
that they're trying to get their revenge before any of that happens. Because they kind of make it so there's like everyone is so driven on revenge for getting Henry, especially that they're like, if they were to replace Kathleen at any point, it would be after they killed Henry. I think that's kind of the idea. Like she's driving them to to revenge, and then after that, they're going to try to actually build a community.
And in the end, it's
I
her
think-
vengeance and like blinding her that gets them all killed.
Just real quick, because I was trying to figure out the battery stuff. Tess is the one that says that she bought it. So basically, she bought a battery from what's his name, Robert, and yeah, she paid him for it, but then he didn't give her the battery, and he sold it to
Yeah, I
someone
thought
else.
that's
which is
exactly what it
Marley.
was, because that's what I said. That
Yeah.
they purchased the battery from him, but then he never
Yeah,
paid
and he
up.
ripped them off. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I was confused when I first watched the episode. I just checked the dialogue to make sure. So yeah, sorry if I got confused about that, but it's fine. The issue I had is
God
gone
damn it,
now.
guy.
You gave aspiring
Yeah.
writer a fucking migraine that entire time. He was like yelling at me in the
Oh,
comments.
sorry, Spider Rider. I've not been paying the most attention to chat. If you corrected me, I apologize.
Yeah. Again, like he's also bringing up the loyalty aspect, and the show brings up the loyalty aspect as well. I get that, I really do. I just don't agree with it. Not in this situation. I don't think people would be so blindly loyal to her that they would just ignore these other incredibly important elements of their life.
I think
I
they
would.
would. I think we've
I
seen
think
dumber
that
people
I
in
really think
real
they would.
life follow leaders like that.
Yeah.
No,
This is
I
like
don't like that argument.
I find this quite believable. I think
Yeah.
this is very likely to happen because they very much get across that the brother was like really like they all
Loved.
loved him. Like they
Yeah.
and the idea of like following their sibling in an act of revenge, and she's clearly good at least rattling that revenge and how like she describes
Yeah,
it.
she's good at
I
riling
absolutely
them
would
up and
believe
getting them ready.
that they
to...
would spend quite a while trying to find the people responsible. In the end, it gets them killed, but like I find that I think that all follows through really.
Mm-hmm.
Not much more I can say about that, but yeah. I guess we can move on to Editron's least favorite episode.
Well, I guess it's between episodes 1, 2, and 7. I guess really it would be episode 1. Really, I sort of the same. Not everything. Like I don't
We've
hate
discussed
the
episode
first
1 a
scene,
little
but
bit at length. Can we go into why you don't like episode 7?
I think I don't hate episode 7 at all. I actually do like it. I just feel like you can, because my issue with the show as a whole is its pacing and how quick it needs to tell its story. I feel like you can do episode 7, but more so in like 30 to 40 minutes. I feel like if you can cut some bits out just to make it a bit more tighter, and then add that on to maybe introduce like the next episode, which was episode 8. I feel that's probably my only real issues. Other than that,
I didn't really feel the length of that episode when I was watching.
I also think the scene where they get infected is a bit silly.
Yes,
a little bit.
That scene is silly. The scene where they establish the infected, that one infected that ends up infecting them is also silly. I think there's a lot of.
I think Riley doesn't do a great job at trying to kill the infected too. That's another issue I have.
She's got fucking
grenades. I think at one point she just stops shooting. If I remember correctly.
I think she says run and then she stops shooting. Yeah. She just tells Ellie to run.
I think episode 7 is superior to 1 and 2, but it's probably my third least favorite episode. I still like it though.
The thing I find really stupid about that episode is that Riley has mentioned it multiple times that her and other Fireflies have checked out this area. There's no infected. That's why
she's been living there basically.
Oh yeah, how Fedra doesn't have anything going on in that mall, or how they don't see the lights or anything like that. I find that incredibly silly.
Or even hear it, like it's a massive mall.
Yeah, I think hearing it would be more the thing. I think just abandoning them all and thinking because they think it's not connected to the
But
grid.
there's like but there's like they haven't got anything set up. They haven't like properly cleared it like in 20 years. If it just like
Yeah, I think it's
no,
fine. It's a mall. I don't
no.
think like because I don't think there's much to. I guess there could be things to
It's a
make in
lot of
there.
space. There's a lot of space
Yeah,
that can be very
I
useful
don't. Yeah,
for like
I guess
at least. Yeah.
I guess if they wanted to, they could. I think they would if things got desperate in terms of like space and whatnot, and not like
I
I
just
don't
feel
think
like
they
in
are at that
20
point yet.
years you'd want that cleared out because the mall seemingly is quite massive. That's quite a useful amount of space to like home people if really needed, or to set up another base of operations.
Well, yeah, but
It
it's
just
like that
feels
takes
weird
a
that
lot.
such a
That
large
would take
space.
a
No,
lot
yeah, but
more
it's been
work
20
than just getting
years.
an apartment. Well, yeah, but you do things more efficiently rather than just going to like a mall and clearing it out for people to live there because you have
I just
other
find it
apartments in the
very hard to
area.
believe they've got nothing going on at the mall. I find that very hard to believe.
I mean, there's a few things that you could do inside the mall that doesn't necessarily require like people living there. I mean, you could turn a few of those
Well,
places
no, yeah,
into.
just any. My point is that they have done nothing with it. That's my point. I
No, no,
find that
I was just
very
giving
hard to
you,
believe.
I was giving you some examples of stuff. I mean, if that
Hmm.
mall isn't connected to the grid, then it must have its own sort of power supply. So it's probably like a built-in generator or something. So that's useful for something. You can connect a whole bunch of useful machines up there, like radios, like
Yeah, it would
medical
make sense if
equipment
they
and stuff
made
like
that like
that.
one of their base of operations
Yes, like
because of the
maybe a
amount of
freight
rooms
Yeah.
they have and
training
stuff.
I don't.
facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't replay the DLC before watching the show, so my memory on it is much more hazy on like how where it is or like what's going on with it. So I can't really comment on whether the game does it better or worse.
Yeah. I mean, I really like what they do with Ellie and Riley in this episode. I think their characters are really
I
good.
think the yeah
I really
I
liked
like
Riley.
The
their
thing I find
interactions.
funny about
I liked Riley.
The thing I find
Mhm.
funny about this episode is the fact that Ellie stabs the infected creature in the face and it instantly kills them. I find that funny because in episode 2 she has access to a knife and I think so does Tess and Joel, but none of them take it
Yeah.
out to fight the infected.
Yeah, well, against the clicker, that fucking scene with the clickers in episode 2 is probably might be my least favorite scene in the entire show because I think all three characters are being very silly, and I think that the way it's shot is awful. It's just the shaky cam. I can't tell anything that's going on, and then the fight just kind of over because like something happens, and then Tess gets like bitten. I think it's just like a lot of things that they didn't know how to show, but that were probably clear in the script of like the idea of what they wanted to visualize with the scene. But with the cinematography, just did not get across at all. I don't like that scene. Like I not a one bit. I think it's bad.
You
Just
know,
bad.
one of my least favorite reasons why they didn't set the show in 2013, instead they doing 2003, is in the Left Behind DLC. They do the Facebook joke in the picture booth, whatever. I can't remember what they're fucking called.
Yeah.
I think that's a quite underrated joke, especially now, because like even now, like even though Facebook is still pretty popular, it's just kind of like funny, like the amount of jokes made about it, how hardly anybody uses it, but still a lot of people use it. That's one little thing that I wish they had in the show because I think that's
Yeah, I thought that was an
quite funny.
unnecessary change. They just wanted the show to be set in like current day, which I thought was a bit
Yeah,
weird.
it doesn't really affect anything else.
It doesn't
I
change
would have
anything.
preferred.
It just doesn't
Yeah,
necessary change.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
I don't see why.
Also, one thing I don't like in terms of changing the story from the game to the show is this thing that I'm currently showing now on the stream.
Tess death.
Tess's death is so fucking stupid in the show. I'm sorry. She gets infected, and yet, like a few minutes ago, maybe like at most an hour ago, and yet she's got enough spores inside her that the infected are able to recognize that she's infected, and then it gives her like this weird
A
kiss of
little
life.
kiss. Yeah.
Yeah,
I find it
as
It
she's
strange.
was
about to
I think the
blow
game
her.
version is
weird.
like. I think the game version is so much stronger for her character.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really like that scene a lot. where she's just like, I will not fucking turn to one of those things. I'd rather get shot and die.
Mhm.
And I feel like
that's also another change that I was a bit on, is the fact that
I wasn't a fan of
that they
Show
get-
Test, not gonna lie.
Yeah, show test felt very.
I like the actress, but I think the writing for her was not that good. I just think that
Yeah, like the
I
scene
didn't
that's
like that they
on the
changed
screen right
infected.
now is like,
I
so
didn't like
great.
I didn't like that they changed it so it's infected that killer there, like that are coming instead of being like these soldiers.
Yes, I didn't like that either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what my
And that
reasoning
might be
was when I first watched
superficial,
it. It's
but
been a while.
like I just feel like that's the scene in the game is so strong that
Yeah.
it's very very much changed in the show.
It's also just like
It
there's
just
like
feels like
hundreds of infected coming. Like it's like a huge wave, and it's because like they're connected through like some grapevine, like some stupid thing that connects their minds, and they're like, oh, Joel touched one of them, or like one of them moved, and it's like calling hundreds of infected there. I'm like, that's a bit silly. Like I don't know if I'm willing to buy that like the infected can come running to a
Yeah, they
place
just
because
basically
there's
turn
like
them
some
into the
vines
flood
and
from Halo, which is like, why? You had a perfectly
yeah, that was
good.
so silly because in the game she's like fighting these soldiers that are coming after you, and you're like you need to get far from there as fast as
it
possible.
feels a
because
lot
you're
more
infected.
heroic as a sacrifice. She like facing
Yeah.
down people like gunning her down. I feel like it's a lot stronger. I feel like just
Yeah.
Tess is just so much stronger in the game as a character.
Well, it's also like I really like that when you get up the stairs in the game, you can actually like see her body there, and like as the soldiers
that's
are next
great.
to her, and Ellie even comments like Jesus, and Joe's just like,
I also just
let's
want to
go.
point out something funny about that scene where she's blowing up the building. In the game, she's gunning down Fedra agents, or she's going to get gunned down by
Yes.
Fedra agents. So she doesn't need to really like worry about if she's going to get Joel or Ellie killed because she's so secluded in that room. In the show, however, she
She's
blows
got
up
a
the
bunch of
entire building.
yeah, she's got a bunch of grenades and I think she throws gas on the ground as well, and I was like, dude, chill.
It'd be cool if Joel
Like,
picked
no,
up
no,
some
no,
of
no.
those
That's
grenades.
not even the
That would've
worst
been
part.
useful.
She was trying to blow up the building prematurely, but her lighter was fucking up until like the very end when the thing's
Oh
kissing
yeah, that's
her.
another
Just
thing that
light one of
annoyed
the
me. I don't understand-
grenades.
No, no, no. If she lit the fucking thing up earlier and if it actually worked, she unironically would probably have killed Joel.
Would have killed. Yeah. Yeah, those are silly.
Also, use the
I don't
grenade.
know. I don't think it's a. I don't know if it's a problem or if I just didn't like the visual, but I thought it was very silly when she was like, throwing gas on the floor. It just was a silly visual. I was just like, I can't take this seriously. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like that. I think in the game where she's just like, you go, and she's like just pointing her gun at the door. I think it feels like a much more meaningful moment for her character. I don't know. I think the network thing with the infected is interesting, just underutilized. But they said they'll know more for the next. They'll show more for the next season. I mean, sure. I think they kind of just introduced the 2-kill test. Like that feels kind of like what they did, because I don't know. Like this is the only.
Well, that I think at the
That's
end
the
of
only
episode
episode,
5,
basically.
because they all go towards the city, so that's also kind of related. But yeah, I agree it's a bit underutilized in the whole show. Well, the infected in general, it just seems like one of my major like superficial gripes is just the lack of infected. There's only a few
I didn't
infected
like that as
seeds, and
well.
it feels like a really big like. And I get because it's a show and not a game. Like naturally, it's probably there's gonna be less action than you would in a video game.
Yeah, I was talking about
But
that with
it's
with Shandy.
so there's so little infected in the show. It just feels really strange, and maybe that's just because it's 9 episodes instead of what it probably should have been like 13. I think would be the perfect amount of episodes for the show.
We
Honestly,
didn't have
Yeah,
enough.
I was talking to Shandy about that. That I think the show like it has a lot less like characters and like infected for Joe to fight. Just because it's a TV show and not a game. Like that just is just natural for that because, with a game you're like you are controlling. You need to have like enemies for you to take down. But in a TV show, it's kind of like let's make it more believable. You're not playing the game, so your suspension of disbelief is going to be much lower. If like hundreds of infected come after you, you can actually kill all of them, and Joe actually kills all of them. So it's like I get why, like I get why they changed it, but I think it's a bit. I don't know if I'd say it's just silly. It's just something that like I wish there were more, so that we actually saw the infected as like this big threat. Because for a lot of it, I don't feel like the infected are portrayed as like huge threats as to like what like actually obstacles to what they're going to achieve. When they show up, they're threats, but they show up so sparingly that the infected are kind of like an afterthought, I guess.
I just don't think there
Whereas in
was
the game,
enough
like there are a lot of
brick.
moments where Joe and Ellie are like just traversing around places, and they're like 2 or 3 infected in one place. You're like, oh, how do I take them down strategically? And I think that would have been cool to see Joe teaching how to do something like that with Ellie, being like, okay, so let's not make any noise, and I think that would have been more interesting. Interesting if there was something like that in the game, especially because you're showing out the portion as you're going to Bill's place. Because I remember there was a portion there. It was just like there are 2 infected, and it was just like, how do I take them out with while taking the least amount of using the least amount of resources. And I was trying to figure out how I would do it. There's like a clicker and a runner. I was like, okay, how do I do that? There's just 2, but I think it's just kind of it helps. And there's a few moments of Joe talking to Ellie be like, "Holy shit!" and Joe be like, "Stay quiet, follow me." Because by that point, Ellie's more willing to listen to Joe and do what he says because Tess has died already. So I thought that could have been neat, but I think it's kind of lacking in the show.
The thing I find weird about the infected in the show is they're kind of a double-edged sword. I like the fact that they seem more threatening and that you actually need to go through more work in order to kill them versus the game where you can just pop them and they're dead. Um, but on the flip side of that, it then means that you have to show less of them as a result in order to make it believable that Joel and Ellie can get through these environments. So, yeah, I do agree with you that would have liked to see them taking on more infected as a result of their travels through the city or the country. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it's like, how could they have done that in such a way that the level of effectiveness of the infected doesn't become cartoony as a result?
Oh, it's just it's like because you're showing the moment where Joel is trapped on the trapped by
Yeah.
Bill's
I like
trap.
this
And it's
sequence a
like
lot.
at that moment there's like a bunch of infected coming at you.
Mhm.
It's the kind of thing where you think, okay, that's not a thing you'd include in the show, and they
No,
didn't, and that makes
especially
sense.
since you
But
might
it's
not notice
Yeah,
this, but Joel has unlimited ammo.
oh no, I know. I played
he
that
does.
moment like a
Oh
couple of
yeah, I've
days
played
ago.
this game many times. I played this game many times. I know it's unlimited.
Yeah. It's just but I think it's like I don't think it's a bad decision for him to have infinite ammo. It's like it makes sense for a game design perspective.
Yeah,
But
no,
anyway,
I'm
my
not
point
commenting. I'm
being,
just saying you can't do that in the show.
yeah. So what I'm saying is like a
Mhm.
moment like that, obviously you wouldn't have. Like there's so many infected that surely you're not gonna do that. It's just like impossible. You just wouldn't. But you can
Well,
still
you could
just like have
if it was
smaller
like
numbers
3
of infected.
infected. Like you could. There's a
Yeah,
way
that's
you
what I'm
can
saying.
probably
You
do this
can do
section.
a lot of these
Yeah, but
moments
yeah,
in the game. You just take the number of infected down instead of like
like
finding 2
3 would be
clickers and
fine,
like 3
honestly.
runners, which is like 5
Mhm.
infected in general. Find like 1 clicker and 1 runner or something like that. That's like more a number that's way smaller, and it's still believable that they would be able to do it. But it is not to a point where it's just like you take away these moments entirely. You still have them in the TV show, but they're just changed slightly to make them more believable. I think you could have easily done that in the show.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there's
I would
lack
have
of
liked
infected
to
is
have
just
seen more
quite
zombies.
bummery for me. It's quite a
Yeah.
bummer.
I would like to
Though
have seen
he
more
said
zombies
like
in the
to see
zombie
have
show.
more zombies. I don't like the infected makeup. It looks fake. I don't really know how to
It
describe it.
looks
It
a
just always
little
looks
fake. I get what
rubbery
you
and looks
mean.
fake.
I
Yeah,
can understand what you mean. I don't think I don't hate it, but
yeah.
I get what you mean.
I think it just always looks like it's something added onto like a face, right? It doesn't. It never looks like they're actually like fucked up. They're actually infected. Because you know how
One thing I
in
do.
Breaking Bad season 4, the finale, you see Gus's face, and you can buy
Oh
like
yeah, I've
holy shit,
totally
like
seen that.
it looks really good. And it's the kind of thing where like if you can do something to that level for the infected, I think it's gonna be a lot easier to buy that they're like actually like basically another species. Because every time I look at them, I'm like they're humans, just like with some mask on. It always looks like a mask. It never looks like real, I guess. Which is like not to say that the makeup or anything in the show was bad. I just think it probably could have done with a I don't know if a higher budget, but spending more money on like making it look more believable, more like blending
Definitely
in
gonna have
with
a bigger
the
budget next season, that's for sure.
oh yeah, but like making it look more like it
It's
blends in with
deforming, maybe. It looks.
the
It
actual
almost kind of seems a bit too clean in a way.
yeah
You know what I mean? It feels
yeah
too a bit too
yeah. I
slick and
think I
not like
mentioned it too.
deformed.
I think I mentioned in is it the beginning of episode 3 where we see one where Ellie like cuts its head open or something? And it's like it just looks too dry or something. Like I don't know, it looks like it's not like it looks like it hasn't it's not it doesn't look like someone who has been living for like 20 years with this or like a few years.
I get what you mean.
It kind of looks like it's just like he put on a mask and that's it. Like it's just like I don't know. I have a hard time describing things, so that's my issue. But
one thing one thing I do really appreciate about the show a lot is that it's very much a lot of on-set locations. It feels a lot just.
That's actually probably
it just feels real.
Why I don't like episode 1 and 2 that much. Well, no, I like episode 1. It's episode 2 more. The CGI that they use for some of the landscape shots looks
not
off.
great.
It's not the best.
Yeah, it doesn't blend in the best.
Not
the
best.
blue screen. Yeah.
Like,
but
I remember
the real
locations
locations they use, the
shot...
sets and everything, they look amazing. Like it
Mhm.
looks so much like the game. It's actually
like them,
uncanny.
like when they're in the forest in episode 4, when they're obviously in like in Jackson, episode 6. Like the locations are really lovely to look at when they're actually on set. They look real and you can touch them and feel them. It's just like it's very beautiful to look at, and I really appreciate it. When there's so much shit where it's just feels so sludge like every time you look at something.
I think the production design is really well done in terms of just making the show feel and look like it is set in the
I think especially in like in the second half of the season, I feel like it really was like
I
really
think the
strong.
show just in basically every aspect gets better as the season goes on.
Well,
I just think
guess in that
other
sense,
than writing, because 3 is the best. I think it's the best. But other than like that one episode, I think is a fluke. I think the show just improves as it goes on.
Also, this is just making me think again on episode 5 and why they changed that sequence at the end of the episode from like a day scene to a night scene. It's probably so that the infected looked better as a result because you could hide some of the imperfections. Because I remember
the CGI for the bloater as well was not the best. You could tell
I was gonna
CGI
say the
for
bloater
shots,
looked
like,
very, very
well.
funny.
They used a actual bloater suit, but I imagine they used CGI elements on it.
Yeah, they probably like did a few CGI.
Oh no, yeah, there were shots that were clearly like practical. But
I did love the part
one
where the bloater ripped the guy's head off. I thought that was fucking awesome.
I was gonna say that moment that was clearly CGI.
No, I did not like the part of him ripping his head off because it's a fucking zombie. Their entire point is that they're supposed to infect other people.
They do that in the game. They rip their head. The bloater rips the guy's heads off in the game. I just like that. When you die as Joel, that's what they do.
Oh, I don't suck, so that's probably why I didn't know that.
Damn. Yeah,
I don't suck either. I never died to blows that often, but yeah, that's what they. I just liked it. It just looked fucking cool. It was just really cool.
Yeah,
and the fact it was Tommy's
voice CGI. I think that was like the clearest CGI moment with the bloater.
Oh yeah, it was.
But if that's a game reference, and if that's the thing, then sure. I don't know. I feel like I'd need to play the adaptation argument thing there because I think it's kind of stupid that they rip his head off.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
if
it's a game thing, that's fine. It's fine, I guess. It doesn't change anything
they don't
whether he's infected or
when that happens. When it happens in the game, when you like get grabbed by a bloater, it rips your head off, but you never see it like fully. So I like that they actually get to it be shown in the show because obviously it's a character.
I did think he was being a bit stupid to just like
gun it
stop and like keep shooting. Yeah, because I was like, obviously you're not gonna be able to stop it. You should like try to run or hide or something. Felt a bit silly.
The thing I don't like about that is how many shots would it actually take to kill a bloater? Because I don't imagine like it would take that many. Honestly, because it's
the kind of thing we don't know because that's the only bloater we see, so we just assume it's a lot.
The only thing I can reference in the game is that it's its own boss fight and it takes a lot to kill it.
Well, unless you're Ellie and you have spontaneous like fucking access to a whole bunch of
or you like shoot its weaks. Or you like shoot its like glory weak spots that they have.
Obviously, but like Molotovs are very OP with getting those bloaters in a. What are the ones in the second game? The ones that are.
I haven't played the second game. I'm not
crazy. I'm asking Column, Shandy. Shut up, Jesus Christ. Hey, you know Column? The ones in the second game that are like kind of like bloaters, but not really.
Honestly, I only remember this. I don't remember playing it at all. Honestly,
Yeah, it's because I've been
not
playing
played
recently.
it.
I'm on the level where there's a few of them. They're basically like bigger versions of like clickers, and you throw 2 Molotovs and they die. They die. Basically, it's not hard to beat. But they're kind of like bloaters, but not exactly. If chat knows, then please
I
tell.
wouldn't generally
There's only like 2
remember.
people in chat now, and one of them's me. So.
Oh no. Well, one of them is me. So what does that mean?
Uh-oh.
I'm also in it.
Yeah.
What? Oh well. Um, it's actually funny that we're talking about the practical stuff because I remember watching the EFAP coverage on Jurassic Park, I think last week. They were
Mhm.
talking about some of the practical elements attached to the T-Rex and the reason why it was looking so good during the T-Rex's opening scene. And I really like that segment as well because I've recently been watching the Harry Potter movies and I got through Chamber of Secrets 2 nights ago. The scene where Harry's running away from the basilisk actually has a practical scene where the basilisk is like up in his face and it looks like a giant fucking snake and like he
Yeah,
touches
that's
it and
fucking.
like
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
it's so
Yeah.
cool to look at. And even the
The
chamber
basilisk when it's like
itself
practical is fucking really cool. The basilisk
Yeah, I
it
in
really
think,
practical.
but I
makes
think people have. I agree, but I think people have a weird concept that if it's practical, it's inherently better than CGI, which I
Oh no!
very
Oh yeah!
much
Oh yeah!
disagree.
Mhm.
But I think when you do practical and you do it really well,
And you do
adds a
practical
little
very
sense of
well. Yeah.
tangibility
it makes
that
the
adds a
blend
lot to it.
between CGI and practical more believable because your brain's like,
Oh
I
yeah,
already
if you
know this
have
is real, so when it gets to
exactly, if you
CGI, it's
have
like it's almost
yeah.
tricking you in a sense. Because they
Oh,
did
if you
that with
have,
Aragog
especially
early
if you
on, which is the
blend,
giant spider. They actually had a puppet
yeah,
of the giant spider, so it's like, oh, there's actually a real giant spider in front of me. So when the smaller CGI
yeah,
spiders come down, it's like you believe it a lot more because it's shot in
yeah,
darkness and because you already have something real to ground the other spiders. So it makes the scene as a
uh-huh.
whole fucking spooky. Especially when one of them
Yeah.
actually grabs Ron in the car. It's so fucking. As an arachnophobe, I hate that scene, but I also love it.
Yeah, when I think a lot of things that nowadays are doing is doing like mixing practical and CGI, where they have some practical aspects, but most of it is still done in CGI. So you can have like a mask or something for
Yeah.
it, but like the body is fully CGI and shit like that. And it usually helps to if you're blending practical and CGI because the practical having that tangibility of being actually in set with the actor, but you add the CGI to add the details and the movement and shit like that. That is meant to be more meant to be more it's things that you can't do practically. Basically, I think that does help a lot
It's why I
in the
found the
feeling of like
bloater a
understanding.
bit disappointing because even though there is practical elements attached, I just found his overall design
Yeah.
lacking. It's like I don't know what they could have done to fix that, but there was something missing that made him very ethereal.
I liked it. I really liked it a lot. How it looked.
I was kind of pulled out the
It-
moment I saw him, and he walks out like he's the fucking mini boss too, like he knows he's the shit. And it's like, yeah,
yeah, I thought that was kind of funny as well. Yeah.
everything else is running, but I'm going to walk out slowly with the fire in the background. I'm
Yeah, and
looking
don't they like
cool.
stare at him as he's coming out? I was like,
Yeah,
dude, there are
they
like
kind of
hundreds of
do, and it's
fucking
like
infected. I
you
thought that
have
was a bit
20 people with
silly.
guns just
Because I
aiming the big
imagine
man.
bloaters are like quite rare. Because
Probably.
obviously that's like the mutation of like many years.
Many years.
So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I find it a bit silly. I don't think it's like I don't know. I think it's just like it's fine. It could have been better. It's just it was a bit disappointing. I agree with Shandy, but I don't think it's bad.
I don't think he's bad. I just think he's disappointing.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is probably something I
That's
should
true.
have mentioned at the start. But even though I don't like some of the episodes, I don't think any one of these episodes, like 1 through 9, is lower than a 6.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree
Like,
100%.
I don't think
Agreed.
there's a single bad episode. I just think that there's
I think there's a
disappointing episodes.
very good consistent element to the show in terms of like the consistency of the episodes, which I
Yeah, I
very
think it
much
has a
appreciate.
very consistent baseline quality. There's sometimes where it does some silly,
Yes.
stupid things and things that are disappointing, but I don't think it ever gets like to a point where it could call it bad. Especially because
There's
it
no
is so
point when
focused
I'm,
on
there's no point where
character
I'm
and the
like,
characters
oh
are so
wow,
good. So
this episode was fucking terrible. I think every
yeah,
episode is got a lot of really good elements to it that make it worthwhile to get through the entire thing.
I
yeah, I
don't
think
think there's a single average episode either. Like everything's like a good to over average state. Like, yeah, this is
Mm.
good. This is alright. I like this. Some
yeah,
cringe,
yeah.
but
I
it's fine.
think I was I don't know if people will take this from this stream, but I think I might have been a bit too critical because I do like the show overall, and I did like it way more as I went on because I didn't like the first 2 episodes, but I did really like 3, and from then on, I really liked basically the entire show. Like I liked every episode, despite things that I didn't like in future episodes. Like I think the show is good. I just like the criticisms I have are just things that I think are just like they could have so easily fixed so many of the things that I find silly.
I don't think the show's great. It's not on that level, but it's a
Yeah.
good show
It's good show.
and a pretty faithful adaptation. At least it's the most faithful video game adaptation I think there is out there.
Yeah.
I think there's better video game shows like Arcane. I think is very much superior to this, like by quite a distance. But in terms of just pure adaptation, it's the best we've got, I would say.
It's the most accurate, yeah.
I think it's a very respectable show as well to the original source.
Respectful, but yes. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is. I think it's just like it does a lot well, and I think our bar for game adaptations especially has been quite quite lowered. So it's nice to see something that is like, oh, this is actually like
couple years, it's slowly rising. I'd say. I feel
don't
like we're
know,
really
I think
going to
slowly
read.
is the word I'd use. There've been like a lot of them really recently. You've got Arcane, you've got Cyberpunk, you've got Sonic, you've got.
Oh yeah, in just terms of video
this-
game shows, films, yeah, the bar is being raised every
We're
year.
getting
I'd
Super
say.
Mario soon, so there's
And
that.
that seems to be a very accurate and very.
It's like, oh yeah, it seems that will be in terms of adaptation quite faithful and respectful.
We had another live-action Mortal Kombat movie like a year or two ago, and apparently
yeah,
that
that
was
was-
fine.
I
We had
mean,
the
I've heard
Halo
it's
TV show, which
garbage,
was
but-
garbage.
Oh yeah, no, that was
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. What do you mean?
I hated it. I saw 20 minutes of the first episode and I gave up.
I'm glad I never watched it. I'm so happy I never watched it.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched it either. The first 20 minutes were enough to
I'm
put me
not a
off of it,
big
like,
Halo
entirely.
person, but I feel bad for people who like love Halo and that show exists.
I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with it. I started playing Halo in the last like 2 years, and even that was enough for me to go, oh yeah, no, this is terrible. Just get rid of it, burn it, set it on fire. But yeah,
oh, well, I guess I want to
I
ask.
do need to get going now. I need to start
Yeah,
setting up
okay.
no, that's
econ.
alright.
So
We kind of had like a
yeah.
bit of a fast one there because I slept in a little bit.
you
and
were
then-
late for an hour because
Yeah.
you're
And
silly.
you can fucking set up a stream properly.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
YouTube hates me. Okay,
Well, maybe you should be nicer.
I am nice to it. If it would just stop copyright striking me every other month.
Oh, so you admit you are cringe then?
What?
Because you didn't dispute the cringe claim from Skye.
I didn't hear Skye.
Yes.
She's too cringe for me to listen to.
Mm. But you're more cringe than me, so how does that work?
Because I'm staying, so I'm less cringe.
I don't think that's how you measure cringe. I think the fact that you like Halo is cringe enough. I've never actually played Halo, so I guess I can say
Okay,
that.
FIFA player,
Okay,
tell me what's
that
cringe.
makes you. Yeah, that
That's
makes.
fair.
No, that's fair. I have linked Skye's channel in the description. This is her first appearance, but I'm assuming a fair few
Oh,
of
yeah,
you
it
in
is.
chat already know who Skye is. If you
I
don't,
don't know who
she hosts her own podcast called Ecom.
do.
Very original name.
Which
I
will
know.
start in like 10 minutes. Like
Oh,
another
true. Am I
live stream,
invited?
so- No, you're not. You
Fuck.
stay here and talk about The Last of Us. We'll talk about good things like actual fandom. That's actually we're gonna cover one of his videos, so I'm not even kidding. So
Fan-
Oh,
Fantastic.
lovely. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, that
Totally.
sounds like a great time. Yeah, me and Skye have been friends for a while. This is hopefully going to be one of her. This is hopefully going to be her first of many appearances in the future. Possibly, I don't know. She's very
Yeah,
cringe,
I hope
so
so.
I might not
I
invite her
did help
again.
Shandy set up the podcast.
She did.
I
Yes.
oh my god, sorry.
Bless you. So
Amen.
yeah, if you want to see what she has on offer, she recently made a Ant-Man video, and she's got an Ant-Man and
Did.
the Wasp video coming out soon.
Oh, that
talking
film was
about-
great, right?
Yes, all 3 Ant-Man films are amazing. I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're horribly inconsistent, but they're amazing.
Yeah.
Ah.
No, yeah, if you guys care about Ant-Man, I guess. I am gonna make a video on all 3 Ant-Man films. Currently working on the Ant-Man and the Wasp one, which is gonna be like like 3 times as long as the Ant-Man video was, which is funny because I thought the first Ant-Man would probably end up being worse, but it
Yay.
didn't. So alas. But
She also does
yeah.
Flash
Sorry, don't
react.
remember anything about that film.
She also does.
Oh yeah,
Flash
we do
reactions
react to
with,
Flash with
yeah.
Madvocate, yeah, on Ecom. That's fun.
So go
There's
check it
nowhere to
out.
run.
Oh, I should probably
There
actually
is
link
no-
Ecom because I've only linked your private channel, so I'll link Ecom too.
That is why you fail.
Shut up. Honestly, go away. I don't even want you here anymore.
No,
Go
alright,
away now.
I'm
Go
going,
away
I
now.
guess.
Bye.
Alright, see you. Oh boy.
Why?
Actual specimen of cringe, that one. But yeah, no, we've kind of gone over like a handful of things really quickly. We didn't like spend too much time talking about like the itty gritty stuff. And if we did, I'd probably need to watch the show again so I could take down notes. I already knew from like the get go that this wouldn't be a long stream, so I didn't like put too much work into prep. Just watching it and just, you know, going through some of the cutscenes in the game and stuff like that. So was there anything that you really wanted to like talk about a little bit more that you kind of like were skipping out on?
I
Maybe-
guess we haven't really talked about the acting in a whole lot. I think Bella Ramsey especially really impressed me because initially I was not in episode 1. I was not buying it at all. I think I remember saying that I thought she was like awful, and I don't think she was like fantastic in episode 1. But I think as the show went on, she really did prove me wrong. She
think
like
that
was
was
like
done-
really good by the end.
I think that was done intentionally, not because they were like trying to make her acting bad, but rather because Ellie as a character was very abrasive and very like in your face. Like you weren't really meant to like think that she was
Sure.
particularly great, and that's the way that it works in the game. Like, you know, she's not on the best of terms with Joel. It kind of takes a while for them to like bond a little bit when she starts telling jokes or when she starts asking Joel questions. So when that kind of stuff starts happening, that's when the relationship starts getting a little bit better. It's the same
I think it's when
in the show.
we get to episode 4 is when I feel like she really like starts to really impress me. Like the interaction with Joel and like the shitty pun book are like really endearing elements
Yeah.
of their interactions that I really liked. That they did pretty well from the game. I don't think episode 1 being quite weirdly structured and like how the events came about didn't help. I think because I think we kind of said before how they meet up with Ellie. I think is very strange, and just having to compensate for that, I just felt was a bit strange, which didn't help. But when we get to episode 4, and then when we get to episode 5, the end, I'm like, okay, no, she's actually like pretty good. And then by the end of the season, like, yeah, she's great. She's actually really good, and she's does a fantastic job as Ellie.
Another thing that I
yeah.
think is a little bit unfair in terms of comparison is Bella Ramsey to Ashley Johnson. People seem to think that
Oh, yeah.
it's a good idea to compare the performances of an actual like 19-year-old to, at that point, a grown woman pretending to be a 14-year-old. Ashley
Yeah.
Johnson was a
Mhm.
professional voice actress for a long time. She did motion capture with everyone at Naughty Dog so that she could, you know, portray an actual performance. But I mean, she'd already had like years and years and years of experience in that particular field. Where with Bella Ramsey, I think the only thing that she'd done before Ellie was uh what's her name?
Thrones.
Sorry?
She's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. I just can't remember the character that she plays. Mormon.
I haven't seen those episodes yet. I've only seen up to season 4, so I don't know.
Okay, so you finished the show.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I haven't.
You
Oh wait, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you finished the show. There's nothing left. Stop.
Well, that's the whole point. Me watching this show is with my friend Connor from his channel because we do reactions to it, and we're only up to season 4. We've just finished it a couple months ago because he's seen all the show and I haven't, but I know what happens in season 8, so it's very fun. So now, really, we know this is now when we eventually watch season 5. we know what's in for us, kind of. Is now the show's gonna decline. Yay. But yeah,
Yep.
I haven't seen her at work, so this is the first time I'm seeing her um in anything.
This is
And
actually the
by the
first time
end,
she's doing
she's like,
anything
yeah.
properly, because even in Game of
Yeah,
Thrones,
that
she
seems
doesn't stick
seems to be
around
the
that
case, yeah.
long. She's in there for a few scenes, and she does like say 1 or 2 lines, but she's not there for a while.
Hmm.
She's kind of like,
This is her breakout role,
yeah,
really, in
yeah,
terms of like significance.
and she did a
And
really
I
good
think
job.
by the end, like, yeah, agreed. I think Pedro is fantastic.
As
I was
always.
really worried. I was not when I tweeted about this not long ago. I think after episode 6 came out. When he was originally cast, I was like, not entirely sure about that. And I think it did take me a while to really get used to like his version of Joel, because I do prefer the game. Obviously, Troy Baker is fantastic, and like you said, established voice actors are like he is just fantastic as Joel. But once I got used to this Joel and Pedro's performance, I was gobsmacked by how incredible he was, especially in episodes like episode 6. He was incredible in that scene with Tommy. It was a really, really emotional scene that I'm like, damn, you're really good. Why do they write you like shit in Mando? Ugh.
That's because he
Yeah, I
can't take
think
off the
Pedro
helmet. What can
does.
I say? There's actually this weird thing going on where we think that that the people in like my personal friend group, we think Pedro Pascal's just outright been replaced by a body double, and they just write his lines using AI. We
I
don't
feel
actually.
like I've seen somewhere that for season 3 he wasn't in the suit as often. I'm that may not be true. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me either. Maybe because he's just been busy with like other projects, like with The Last of
He's a
Us,
very busy
or
man nowadays.
yeah, he's been doing ads for World of Warcraft recently, which are kind of cringe to watch, but he's making money.
He
So
did. He. Do you know that app game that's always in like an ad? Like I think it's called something Mansion with like the old woman and like ginger young woman. I don't know if you've seen any of those ads, but there's a live action ad for that app that Pedro was in. I saw it recently on Twitter, and it's just like he's fucking everywhere now right now. Uh,
he is indeed an active participant in media. Um,
he is. But yeah, Pedro does a fantastic job in the show. I'm very happy with what he does. Uh, throughout the whole show. I think he's fantastic.
so in terms of other actors who do a really good job, Nick Offerman comes out to me immediately for his role as uh, Frank, so not Frank, Bill in episode 3.
Mm.
Um, I
Yeah,
found
Bill was really good.
I found his particular portrayal really funny because when I saw him, my immediate reaction was he's just playing his character from Park and Recreation. I can't remember the name of the character that he plays in Park and Recreation, but he's also like a uh, what's the word I'm looking for here? A self
Self-indulgent.
no, not self-indulgent. Like he takes personal responsibility for his actions. He's anti-government.
Ah,
He's a
ah,
libertarian.
right.
Just that kind of thing. So it kind of just felt like, oh,
Mm.
this is just the sequel to Parks and Recreation, and he's changed his name to Bill. So I found that funny because he kind of like has the same sort of mannerisms and same sort of well, not all of the same philosophies, but enough of them to make it like a funny comparison. Um, Again, you've mentioned David's actor. I think David's actor was great. He really portrays
Oh yeah, really good.
that creepy factor really really well. Um, Troy Baker as the other guy, I can't remember his name. I thought Troy Baker, he
James.
he did alright. He did alright. He wasn't there for
I
long.
think he
He
did
barely
great.
said anything,
He
but
did really
he was fine.
for what he needed to do. I think he did it like really well, and it's nice to see Troy Baker do something in live action because he's always a voice actor slash like motion capture performer. But to see him like in an actual like live action setting, it's quite nice, and he did a really good bloody job, I think.
Ashley Johnson as well, physical performer. I find her scene very stupid, but I think she does a really great job with what she's given. I
I think
can't
she's
I,
great.
I cannot remember the name for the actress who plays Marlene, but I also know that she plays Marlene in the games, which I found really
Yes,
cool.
she's the one character who got to play herself in both mediums, and she's pretty great.
The actress for Riley in episode 7, she's also another standout one. One
I
episode.
think she did a decent job.
Then you've got Sam and I'm at this point just listing off everyone because I think everyone just does a really good
Yeah.
job.
Oh,
Sam and
Sam and
Henry.
Henry are quite standout, I'd say. They were really good. They were really good.
Hey, The Last of Us got a
Ah,
Shandy cameo. Hell yeah!
hmm.
Just at the university section in the game now. But yeah, Sam and Henry. The change from having Sam being a speaking character to a deaf kid, or not deaf, mute.
Mhm.
I thought that was going to be one of those things where they just get like pity points or sympathy points from the audience, but they actually did something really neat with it by
Well,
incorporating
yeah,
the
well,
sketchbook.
because I don't know if they intended to have him like that, or because the child actor is actually I don't know if he's deaf or mute. Either way, like I don't know either way, but I think they did a fantastic job incorporating that
Yep.
into the story, like and still having it pretty like on beat with the game. But it added something different. I really enjoyed like how they played with it. It was really well done, and yeah, I really good bond between those two characters. The two
It
actors did
also
a
makes
great job.
It also makes Henry's decision to like betray the resistance group to Fedra more sympathetic because it's like, yeah, my
Mhm.
brother's been given a really shit deal in life. You know, he's mute, he's still young, he's being raised in hell, but he's also got this disease that no one can help him with, and Fedra are the only people who have medicine to help out my little brother. So it's like, yeah, I can definitely see why he did that, and I sympathize with him tremendously. And I don't like Kathleen, so fuck her. So Sam and Henry all the way. But the only thing I found strange with Sam and Henry particularly is how they managed to sneak up on Joel in episode 5 because if you remember, he puts the glass down on the floor to like act as like an early warning beacon or
Mhm.
early warning detector thing. Sam and Henry somehow see the glass and then they walk around it, which was like, okay, sure, why not? I guess you guys are being extra careful not to like raise suspicion or anything, but I found that to be kind of silly, but that's just me. I don't know. I find a lot of the show to be really silly, but if I had to go back and watch it again, I'd probably think differently. But as is, it's kind of hit or miss. I guess I never miss.
I don't remember there being an issue there, if I remember correctly.
I was watching it with a friend of mine, Boren, and he even pointed out to me, "Is like, yeah, I don't like how they managed to get past the glass that quickly." So yeah.
I don't imagine it was quick. I imagine they we skipped time and it took them a little bit to carefully get through. And even if they did step on glass, they established very early on that Joel is deaf in one ear and he was sleeping with that ear toward like away from or where they are, like where the glass would be. So even if they did it, there's things there to suggest that they could easily not easily but sneak up upon them and it's still
Okay.
be relatively consistent.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But besides that, I don't really know what else there is for me to comment on that we haven't already discussed briefly.
I think the music is pretty fantastic
The
in terms of just
music,
the music alone.
the music,
I
I
really
don't
love the music.
really feel like commenting on because isn't most of it just taken from the games, anyways?
There's some added stuff here and there. I've been listening to the soundtrack a lot since the final episode, and yeah, it's a really good score.
Which
One thing there are times where I think they use some tracks in different scenes, and it does feel a little bit like because these original scores were meant for different scenes with a real purpose. Sometimes it could feel a bit disconnected, but I think the music itself is still excellent throughout. I'm glad they kept the same music for the final scene and the giraffe scene. I'm glad they stuck to that because those are
I was actually
pretty much
watching
intended for those
I was actually
scenes.
watching that episode last night with Skye, and she mentioned to me that apparently people were complaining that the giraffe was CGI when in actuality it's a real
It
giraffe.
wasn't. I think it'll probably have slight CGI elements, maybe, but it was practical, which I think is quite
the
cool.
only CGI elements attached to that scene was just the background because Skye said they shot those on a blue screen.
Yeah, most likely that is the case.
Yeah, I know, bring it back.
Yeah.
Gonna go a little bit so we can see the petting of the actual giraffe. There we go. Yeah, that's probably like one of my bigger issues with the show from like a practicality standpoint is just how weird some of the sets look where they aren't shooting it on location, they're shooting it on what is very clearly a blue screen. They don't really incorporate it that well, and it might
That
just
can be
be
confusing at
something that
times,
they
yeah,
could fix up again in post, but
probably.
it makes some stuff look particularly shiny and artificial, which kind of takes me out of it a little bit. Like the start of episode 4 when they're driving into the what's the name of that zone? Um,
Fedra Zone, or I can't remember what the
we'll
place
just
was
call it the Fedra
called.
zone. Yeah, the actual scene of them
Yeah.
driving up and then it's a whole bunch of stacked cars and like the really grey city in the background. That scene really looked scuffed to me upon first viewing.
I don't have to remember it because I don't remember that, but yeah.
Yeah. But in all honesty, I'm just kind of glad that the show turned out good. Like this is a good season of
Yeah,
TV.
I was expecting at best like a kind of like 5 out of 10 show, like some things are good, but there's some changes they made that were terrible. I'm actually kind of glad I'm glad that even if season 2, which I think it will, just stick to what the game does in an adaptation form, I'm glad that this season exists and we have this season, and it's pretty much like a pretty faithful adaptation.
I remember like just as the finale of the show was coming out, going onto Twitter and seeing you going, "If they add Abby in, I'm going to laugh my ass off." I'm like,
Yeah.
bro,
I didn't think they would, but there was always a chance that they decided to do something like that.
it was indeed a choice that could have been made. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just glad they pretty much just kept it like we will deal with that next season if that's what they choose to do, which it seems like it is from how they are talking about it and how they talked about the
what
finale, really.
what do you feel about changing the term used for the Ellie thing from vaccine to cure?
Uh I guess I didn't really I felt that while they were changing that scene with Marlene and Joel, it just felt like the same scene, kind of, with a little bits tweaked. So I guess that's not something I've really noticed, really, because it kind of just played out the same, and the implications were still pretty much the same.
I feel like
So
they
I guess
did
I don't
that.
really have.
I feel like they intentionally changed it from a vaccine to quote unquote cure, specifically to make Joel's decision to save Ellie even worse. Because the implication with the word cure is that you are transforming someone from a specific state into a fixed state. So when you use something like cure, you're
Oh,
implying that you can change people's infections back to normal, which most likely would not work. Where with vaccine, you're basically just saying, oh, we're giving people an injection, so if they accidentally walk into a room full of spores or they get bitten by something, they won't become infected as a result. Which is, still a good thing, but it's nowhere near the level of, oh, this is a really, really good thing, medically speaking, as cure would be.
mm-hmm.
I found that just to be a weird change to make, and it felt like they
Yeah.
did that specifically to make Joel seem worse, but besides that, it was almost able to watch.
I didn't really get that from that's. I think the things they added the part where Marlene was going to give Joel Ellie's knife as probably a way of remember her. Maybe not sure. Maybe I'm reading a bit too much into that. But I just felt like, yeah, this is pretty much just the same, and that it's presented as the same, really. So I didn't really have any issues with it because it pretty much was just the same. The only difference is that Ellie was conscious since being knocked out or being separated with Joel. So it even makes it even more of like a with the Fireflies not getting Ellie's permission or consent. It's like it makes it even a little bit worse because they were able to, they could have done it if they wanted to, but obviously for their own reasons they didn't. They've done it for their reasons. They've taken it out of Ellie's hands, which is kind of the big thing I'd say about the whole final part of
Especially
the
for
story.
Joel at the end of episode 6, where he's adamant on being like, okay, look, um, I still stand by my decision that Tommy should go with you, but I think that this should be a choice that you
Mhm.
make. Like, the show, despite
Yeah,
painting him as a little bit, more dickish in the final episode, still gave him that decent character element of being like, you know what,
I
I'm
just
still
feel
going
like
to
the
give you
right
that
like
choice.
because the writers in the inside thing that they described in the episode, they very much just paint it as a is either humanity or Joel saves Ellie, which I'm just like, I don't feel like the writers, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it just to me doesn't feel like they really understand the full context of what happens because the Fireflies very much do a shitty thing, if not just a very shitty thing, by not giving Ellie the choice. And that's why I always felt with like Marlene when she says, and you know it, like you know Ellie would do it, but it's like, if you're that confident, why didn't you ask? Surely you would. But that it's because the Fireflies are desperate, and that's the point. But it never really feels like when I saw that video online that they kind of fully understood that, which I found strange because to me it just very much feels like that the Fireflies are not good guys. They are not good people. I understand why they're doing it. They're fucking desperate, but
But
they're
they're
still not good.
also drastically incompetent, and there's probably something
Oh
attached to
yeah, they
them.
were like, let's get it out of her now, quick, do it now.
Like, they don't run any tests on her. They don't see what like level of infection she can take. They don't see how the journey might have changed her, because
They don't give Joel
she's
his
actually been bitten
payment as
again. So
well.
the infection has multiplied since the last time Marlene saw her, and they don't
Most
see if
most
anything's like
likely.
changed that.
Yeah, and again, likelihood of actually getting it with the technology you have, especially now was set initially in 2003, so it makes it a little bit more logistically, a bit more makes it a little bit more difficult. Probably, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be that, but I'd imagine it wouldn't be easy at all, and the likelihood of that would be, you know, would be hard to say the least. Also, the fact that the Fireflies are very politically driven. That's very much established early on with their dislike with the government and how they're established as this failing group. They're quite desperate. So to me, it just seems like the Fireflies do a very shitty thing and don't allow the person itself with a choice, and that's why Joel makes that choice because he's not going to let these people, get in between who is pretty like someone he cares deeply for.
But the thing is, Marlene admits to Joel in that very scene that, and I think this is something I mentioned earlier on, that yeah, you guys managed to do something that we couldn't do with like 10 times the amount of people, and then you could very clearly imply that Joel is just aware that they are incredibly shit at their job. So even if they do manage to make a vaccine, they most likely won't be able to do anything with that in the end, and he would probably
Yeah,
have.
we're 20 years deep into this world as well,
Yeah.
so
I
it's
remember seeing a
like
tweet from
humanity.
Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember seeing a tweet from Chris Reagan after the finale came out, and I found it really funny. He said the most unbelievable thing about the finale for The Last of Us is that Marlene thinks that people would globally be accepting of a vaccine
No,
of
we've got
after.
there are we've seen raiders, we've seen rebellions. This is very much a world where humanity is beyond getting back to what it was for hundreds and hundreds of years, most likely, if that. Like, this is a changed world permanently, really. So the idea of a cure is like and that's kind of with what they kind of went over a little bit in episode 7. Like the Fireflies are this quite they want to see the good in like trying to fix the world, but it's kind of beyond saving, and they're quite naive to it. And I feel like that was always the point with the Fireflies in both this show and the game.
I actually
But it
think
feels
that's
like this.
something Joel comments on in episode 6 when he talks about Tommy to Ellie.
Yeah,
When he says that, Tommy was an idealist, but he didn't really have much real world experience, so he ended up joining places like the military or, Fedra or something like that. And then his ideology changed as he got more and more life experience, and then he meets Tommy
Mhm.
in the commune, and Tommy was able to build up something good, even with his ideals still in check. He just changed the way he applied them. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
the Fireflies are the exact opposite. They're an example of people who stuck by their principles, quote unquote, but didn't change how they operated, and that's why they're so incredibly
Mhm.
shit.
Yeah, and I always felt that that was the point. But it feels, and this it doesn't help with like Last of Us 2's like sort of reframing of how we see Joel, but like we are very much fixated on this idea that Joel is like it's so strange. I just don't get this idea that I don't know if you saw that tweet, but I remember I can't remember the username, but someone said like the whole point of it is we're meant to feel bad for the Fireflies. I'm like, how in the fuck is this frame to make us feel bad for the Fireflies? If we look at the context, what they've done, understandably so for like how they're established, they're shitty people. They've done a shitty thing. It's so clear to me that like it's very conflicted. You know, just it's very frustrating because I've always felt the clear point was the Fireflies are quite shitty,
But
and while
that
Joe
was
does something quite brutal, it's completely understandable why.
that's the funny thing is because the original game had that discussion where it's like, yeah, Joel is quote unquote sacrificing humanity, but he's also doing it for an understandable and just cause because the Fireflies up to that point have already been portrayed as incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. They're lacking men. They're dying. You know, not everyone would be willing to accept the vaccine. There's still raiders who're still infected. So you had um, that gray moral ending, which left people talking about it for years, which then gets retconned in the second game to being, yeah, no, Joel was just wrong the entire time. This doctor was a once in
Oh,
a
yeah,
lifetime.
that's why I hate that scene so much between Ellie and Joel at Salt Lake City in the second game because Joel doesn't explain the full context. He just doesn't. He refuses to, and I have no clue
But
why.
the thing is that
Just
game has
feels it's
also changed the discourse online to having people replaying the first game
yeah.
or replaying the remake of it and just outright painting Joel as the bad guy, and I feel like that's bleeding over into the
No,
TV show where
yeah,
people are like,
exactly.
"Oh yeah, Joel's just the bad guy," and you've got people like trying to explain, "No, I mean he's got very justifiable reasons for why he's doing everything." So I hope the conversation like comes more towards the middle rather than just being outright Joel bad.
Oh yeah, like I said at the beginning of the stream, the only thing I think Joel does wrong, but is still totally within character, is lie to Ellie.
Yeah,
Because it's this idea that he's trying to protect her and I think it actually does a pretty good job within the show because there's many times where he feels like he lets her down and like her innocence is broken and this is kind of a choice he makes to protect her. While he probably should tell the truth, and most people probably would, like I probably would personally, but for Joel, it makes complete sense, really, why he made that choice. And that's sort of like clearly to me what the story was originally meant to be. And it feels strange that now this whole discourse around Joel, was he a villain? I was like, no, he's absolutely not a villain. It's and we're not meant to feel bad for the Fireflies. I don't get this idea. Really, I don't.
like yeah, no, if they were so confident their ability to save the world, then why are they dying so quickly? Like Marlene's
Why
first pieces of dialogue to Joel, like we're
yeah.
fucking dying, man. We need help. We
Yeah,
are.
like in the show where Marlene says, like when Joel says to Marlene, "It's like it's not for you to decide," and then she says, "Well, neither is yours." We should. Why didn't? What would she say? It's like, man, if you were that fucking confident, why didn't
Actually,
you fucking ask?
you've just made me aware of something very stupid because in episode 7, Ellie is not pro Firefly. She's anti Firefly because
Oh,
she's
she's
like,
very
yeah,
much not.
you guys, you know, bomb civilians. You guys fight Fedra, who are like
Hmm.
the only people who like even trying to protect us at this point. So I don't know. I feel like the show might have shot itself in the foot with that interaction with Riley, unless they make it that Ellie changes her mind. Because
Oh yeah, like Ellie's not pro Firefly at all. Very much so. Also, there's also the added element that I kind of thought about recently. Is like it's very likely Ellie would probably say yes, but mainly because of her guilt. that's kind of what she kind of referenced in the final scene, like because of the death of Tess, Riley, and Sam, and she's still going because she's immune. Though all those people got infected, they died, but she, she was immune. It's sort of this survivor guilt that she has, It's very, it's an anime character that's like, she would, but like, she would do it because out of guilt, not necessarily out of like, oh, it's because it's the right thing to do. There's like also that added element because she still is quite young, And it's why Joel was like, is kind of left with no choice in that situation when the fireflies kick him out. So like this, I never will agree with the idea that he is villainous. No, because the
Especially
context
when
suggests that
especially
he's
when like their
protective.
first interaction with Joel at that point was they smoked him out, and then while he was deranged and like not being able to see, they smack him on the back of the head with a rifle, and then carry his unconscious body into the hospital, and then
Yeah,
carry Ellie's unconscious body into the hospital, and they perform fuck, I can't speak. They perform surgery on her unwillingly without her consent, and they tell Joel, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to like it. You're going to leave. Bye. Fuck off." And I don't even think they paid him either. They didn't give him
oh
what he
no,
wanted.
yeah. In both versions, in the show and game, they don't pay him what they agreed on. That's also another factor. Like again, Fireflies are shitty.
They
They're not
suck.
good people.
They are
They're
very
all...
very bad. No goody
and
two
that's the
shoes
point.
people.
That's the point both versions make. Whether I think the writers for the show, especially, really kind of realize that is just like kind of worrying because I feel like the second season and third season will just cover this game, Last of Us Part Two, just as it was really, and it will still have the same sort of issues.
Which is hopefully not going to be the case, because it would be
Yeah,
quite
hopefully.
it would be quite neat if they actually, expanded a little bit on the game a little. And I know Neil Druckmann has already said that they aren't going to change anything and that they're going to keep it like 100% accurate to the game. But that's not true for this season, like at all. Like
Exactly.
they've
There
changed a
will be
lot.
changes. It's just how significant the big changes are going to be, really. And I imagine a lot of it's going to stay the same for
Yeah.
the next two seasons.
I also imagine like the higher ups at HBO are already familiar with how controversial the first season, sorry, not first one,
Oh yeah,
the
just look at
second
the
game
last
was.
week since.
Yeah. They probably know, like, yeah, we've got a massive money maker on our hands. We are not going to let you ruin that, no matter how
Yeah.
much you sold on
Make sure
PlayStation
Pedro's
games.
in the show in the second season for a bit. Like, come on, guys.
Or at
People
least
like
like
him a
have
lot.
a bridging season between the first game and the second game. Like have a second season
Yeah, that's
where
an idea they
Joel,
could do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it gives Bella time to age up so she's a little bit more mature for by the time the second game or second season comes. By the time the second game comes out for whatever season they decide to make that story.
If they do Joel's death relatively like the game, then the audience is gonna fucking turn on this show. Like a lot of people are gonna not watch this show. I'll guarantee you that. A lot of people like Pedro Pascal a lot, and a lot of people will like Joel. But hey,
Yeah,
he's not a beloved character, so
he's responsible for absolutely every single person who dies after the end of the first game. Truly,
no.
the
But the
John
end of
bad
the
guy
first
of our
game was
time.
a bad thing that happened. Like in a sense, sure, but not for the reasons you're saying it is.
Yeah, I just find Last of Us discourse after the release of the second game to be very cringe, and I wasn't a particular big fan of the first game either. I kind of think the first game's average, mostly because the story isn't that complicated. It's just told really well, and the gameplay shit. Fight me. Um, but
I won't
yeah,
find you a game.
it's a good game, but I didn't think it was this masterpiece that people were calling it. I think it was just a really good story told really well, with okay gameplay. I think it translates really really well into a TV show, mostly because the game was just a playable TV show most of the time, so it wasn't that hard. They also got rid of a lot of the filler segments of the game, like the fucking pellet sections where you have to swim Ellie across a random lake.
I would have like one reference of that. That would have been fun.
I thought the reference was just Ellie couldn't swim in the second episode when they're in the hotel.
Well, no, it's very much a thing in the whole game that she can't swim.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is
there's very
annoying.
many
I hate those pellet sections. They suck.
times.
Especially when I was playing the game on grounded difficulty, because like I had to restart that game so many times because of just how stupid the AI was and how many resources I was deprived of, no matter how well I played and how many stealth sections I went through. It's like you guys are starving me of stuff, even though I know this person has like
Oh,
a
you know what?
100-round mag.
Yeah. I'm pretty sad they didn't have a single brick or bottle reference in the show. That's so easy to do as well. It would have been great if they just had one moment where Joel just throws a bottle or brick. That'd have been cool.
That would have been fun. Yeah, I would have liked to see that. Just brick it up. Yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah, just have a section where he's got just throwing a bunch of bricks. Or like, I'm surprised they didn't have a section where they like distracted a clicker and got away, like they do
They did.
in the game.
They did episode 2.
Well, no, it kind of, but they got caught. What I mean is like they have a section where they actually do get away in a very tense situation.
Right. Okay. Nope, fair enough. Um,
Yeah,
I don't really
and
want
yeah.
to see that many game comparisons though, because the thing is, I kind of liked how serious the show was taking itself. I would have liked
Oh
one
yeah,
or two
totally. I
references,
totally
but if
understand
they
that. Yeah.
went a little overboard with it, then it would not have been the best.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying to go overboard, but I think just having one section like that to sort of not like replicate, but like have little bits of it. We've been really neat to see.
It was funny watching episode 3 and episode 9 with Skye, because anytime there was a table, just a normal table, in any one of those episodes, Skye would then be like, "Yo, is this a crafting table reference?" I'm like, "No, Skye, it's just a table."
I never got that once. What?
I never got it once either, but Skye's just that stupid. Like in episode 9 especially, she's like, "Oh, it's a crafting table."
Dude, is that a
game.
crafting bench reference? Whoa.
I'm like, "No, Skye, it's just a table." Like,
It's
why?
just a fucking table.
But yeah,
That's funny. That's fucking funny.
I feel like we've kind of reached the point where there's not much more to say. I'm not
No.
too fresh on the games either, so I'm not going to be able to comment on them. I only managed to watch like one of your playthrough episodes. I think it was the first one.
Right.
That was back when I wanted to do this coverage like a month ago, back when the first episode came out. But never
2
got
months
around
ago,
to
yeah.
doing that. But yeah, we've been going now for just over 3 hours, which I think is a good enough time. You know,
Yeah.
we covered. I thought we
Yeah.
weren't going to, but we managed to cover every single episode, which is Oh wait, we haven't even reached the 3 hour mark. Never mind. So it must have just been. Oh right, that's why I was looking at the Discord call, and the call obviously went longer because
no,
we were
yeah,
trying to
we-
fix the OBS problem. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
So we're just under 3 hours. But yeah, I think this was a pretty good season. Some changes there that weren't that great. I'd need to rewatch the show to see if I still agree with some of the issues that I have. Mainly with Kathleen. Fuck Kathleen. Bitch. But yeah, I'd say I'm looking forward to a season 2. I hope they do a good job. I hope they don't
I
succumb
am.
to Neil Druckmann's
I'm
cringe.
still going to be incredibly worried about it.
I don't care. Like I like the first season, but if the second season's bad, I'm not gonna care too much. Like I'm not that invested in this. I think it's good, but I don't think it's great.
I think I would care. I'd be a bit annoyed if it's like I just literally just going to do it all over again. Okay. Fine.
I'd find that very funny if they just did it all over again. They're like, yeah, I wrecked this IP, but do you want to see me do it again?
Look, I just wrecked this IP. You want to see me do it again?
Fantastic.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
there's
I
no one
would
currently in
totally
chat,
recommend
so I
this
don't
season
think we're
to
gonna have
anybody.
to comment on anything that they say. So I think what I can do is just let you give a quick description of what it is that you do.
Oh, well, in last year I've done nothing, but yeah, I
Same.
when I do videos on breaking down media. I will probably actually do a video on The Last of Us. Not like a massive video, but I'll probably go over the broad points of what I really liked and what I think the show did well, and things I think it could have done better, and sort of how it's in comparison to the game and how it's a pretty decent adaptation. But yeah, I there are videos I have done. I've done a couple of videos on Doctor Who on some bad episodes. I've also, if I look right, I have done a video on WandaVision from like 2 years ago. You know, if you remember that show, it
Yep.
ended so well, didn't it? Yeah. But yeah, but I'll hopefully get into the swing of things. I also do a podcast called EDA with my friend Connor, where we cover Doctor Who content and videos and all that. So if you like Doctor Who, I imagine maybe someone in this chat does. I don't know. But if that's your thing, you can just type in EDA and hopefully it will be there maybe. But yeah, hopefully I'm gonna hope to make some more videos this year. You know, I might as well. I think I
Yep.
do a decent job. Yeah,
Editron's channel has been linked in the description, so if anyone who watches this would like to see more from him, I would recommend it. I have seen his WandaVision video. It is quite good, quite funny. WandaVision sucks. Um,
it did.
as
It's
for
very bad.
me, I am currently working on my video for The Amazing Spider-Man 1. I've got all of the audio down, so I'm just busy working on the visual editing, so it shouldn't take me too long. I just need to get started on that again because I've actually been quite lazy the last 2 weeks. Just been really busy at work, so whenever I get home, I've been exhausted. Um, I have got about another maybe 2 more streams planned. I've got one for next week. We're going to be doing some Andor coverage, and I might do one the week after that, but that would just depend on availability of everyone. So, besides that, I think that would be me for today. How about
Yeah,
you? Yeah. No,
yeah.
thanks.
My have a discussion.
Thank you very much for coming on, Editron. I'm never going to bring you on again because the UK sucks. So,
Yay!
but yeah, no, I think that's us for today. I hope everyone enjoyed. I shall nut with you next time. Bye.
Why?